some donuts.
Live with some donuts.
Yeah, like have some donuts. You're gonna go nuts. We're gonna something. Anyway, guys, hi. Welcome to Cinema Bias. Hi. Guys, we're fancy tonight. How is everybody? Adelia, I see you in here. I think we're absolutely live, so this is cool. We're just starting.
Totes my goats, we are.
I am VideoDrew. I am one half of Cinema Bias. This is the other half. Alex Mack.
I am Alex Mack, the inferior side of Cinema Bias. I'm excited to talk about this movie. This movie in particular that we're going to be chatting about is so outside my wheelhouse. I'm so excited to, it's our first time having Cinema Bias. So we're having a patron of yours that made a suggestion, and you're like, y'all, got to watch this movie. It's a fave. Let's talk about it. So.
Not even just a patron, but we picked a very special person, which is also by our producer and somebody who's been working on our show for a while. So this is not going to be the Cinema Bias that we have offered, by the way, on the tier, the Patreon tier, where you can come on and be part of the show. This is somebody who's going to be on for the whole show, because this is somebody that's very special, kind of like the Roca episode, that we're going to be switching out intermittently and having guests on to do special segments. But this one's interesting specifically because Cinema Bias is a show where me and Alex have been filling in each other's blind spots. Like,
yes,
we've been giving each other shows that the other one. I think maybe I misunderstood the concept that I myself came up with, and I thought the show was about making. Yeah, I think thought the show was about making each other watch movies that we didn't want to watch, in sort of like the Schadenfreude kind of way.
Well, we're not too far off of where we started, though. Let's be honest. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but it's also at the same time, it's these movies are. Oh, I hear something.
No, sorry, that was me for a second. That was me for a second.
Yeah, well, I mean, this movie is a lot of movies that we've chosen so far are completely out of our wheelhouse. I mean, so if you're not familiar with Cinema Bias is awesome. Thank you so much for checking us out. Cinema Bias is a show, like I mentioned, where you not only kind of challenge each other to not only see each other's blind spots, but to really kind of get outside our comfort zones when it comes to movies. Obviously, whether we like it or not, whether we realize it or not, we kind of grew up watching movies that they were kind of steered in a certain direction, where we grew up with certain biases. Oh,
sorry. Yeah, that was not right. There we go. Certain biases. Go ahead.
Yeah. So essentially, sometimes you're maybe growing up, you might have had a big family, and so you watched a lot of family movies, or maybe towards certain directors, genres. Drew, obviously, is it?
My family was messed up. So we watched a lot of messed up films. We watched a lot of messed up cinema. So like the only films I know are like really, really, really upsetting films. And that's what I grew up on. And Alex grew up on things like something called The Little Princess, which isn't even about a princess. It's just about a chick.
It's kind of very on brand, though. Let's be honest. I'm challenging you to watch these like really chill, like really cutesy movies, and you're challenging me to like cry watching a movie.
So wait, let's try for instance. You're trying to make me cry the way I cried while watching, let's say, Warrior yesterday on a Twitch stream.
Girl,
we'll get into that later. I wish I had not watched that live. That's what I'm saying. That's what. There's a question here from Weston that I want to get to, because this brings us to the movie in question and our very special guest. But before that, I do want to say, guys, if you do want to have any suggestions, tips, comments, of course, you can send it to the super chat. You can also send it to right below streamlabs.com/VideoDrew. You saw that like little black box in the corner? That thing is going to do like the Schmoebot thing, more or less. And so I'll be able to you'll have your little thing up, and it'll be like a thing, and you'll get that little endorphin rush. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want it? You do. You definitely.
I do. Most definitely want it.
Absolutely. Everyone wants
it. I want it all.
So that brings us to the first question of the night, though, which is, why does Alex always look like she's running for office?
I'm super fly. That's why.
Well, it also brings us to the point of the movie we're about to watch, which is we've been forcing each other to watch pretty esoteric films, movies that are specifically in one or the other's wheelhouse. We're going to try something different with this show now, where we're going to force outside movies that we've both, or like one or both of us, have not seen, that are like huge gaping holes, not like the indie deep cuts that we've sometimes picked. But
me, I chose Whale Rider. It's a foreign film that was nominated for like an Oscar. Like,
I mean, I made you watch Blue Velvet just because I thought it would be hysterically funny to have you watch Blue Velvet. We're going to be doing more mainstream, sort of like we did with Rosemary's Baby. It was. Still, the funniest part of the show was the time that you asked, "What's a GIMP?" after Pulp Fiction, and I just did not know what to say.
I'm just incredibly grateful that wasn't clipped out, and it's not haunting me right now.
Oh, it's not.
I didn't know that there was an official name, my dude. I didn't.
Let's get into it right now, though, because we do want to bring in our guest for a second. Yes. But we have our first two segments first, which is we're talking about the movie, guys. It's called Wall Street. Now,
Wall Street. From 1987, by the way, starring Michael Douglas, and is from the late 80s, like it came out in 1987, but also Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen, Daryl Hannah. So a lot of really
basically all the Sheens except Emilio Estevez is what we're talking about.
It's like all the
Sheens except the Estevez. Yeah. So it's it's this movie. Let's see. I'm trying to get up a good image, but of course I have no ability to do that kind of thing, like bring up good images. Here we go. So here's a picture from the movie Wall Street. It's real small. There we go. Oh nope, that's Wolf of Wall Street. I can't even do that correctly. Nope.
Well, I feel like that'd be a really great double feature.
Here we go. Here we go. This is Wall Street. You guys know it. You guys love it. I hope.
Greed. It's good.
That is a phrase from it. We'll talk about our favorite lines in a minute. But in the meantime, Alex, do you want to tell me real quick, if you can? Well, I guess, tell us what your bias is. Why haven't you seen this movie?
Like I was saying earlier, this movie is not exactly in my wheelhouse. I've heard of it just because Greed is Good is a very iconic line, and I knew Michael Douglas was in it, but I didn't know anyone else that was involved. I didn't even know it was directed by Oliver Stone. I think it's Oliver Stone. I didn't know any other big things
Eric, so don't feel bad. Eric knows everything. Eric did not know the Oliver Stone movie.
It just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I've talked in the past how, my dad didn't have like really weird father-daughter movies like V for Vendetta or, things like that. But at the same time, this movie never really popped up. So not to mention, I feel like it's a very, I don't want to say a very masculine movie, but I feel like this is I feel like,
dude.
I was like, I don't like to like stereotypically say there's a lot of movies that are very masculine movies, but this movie, I feel like now that I think about it, I feel like it was like a movie that you would see on like the posters of in like college dorms for guys, things like that.
I'm not sure. That's interesting you said that. I'm not sure if this was like that kind. Unless you're a broker, I don't know if this was ever like Scarface level kind of thing. It's not because it's not.
Yeah, probably not on that level, but it's definitely in the ballpark.
I definitely know, and I think we'll talk about it in a second, but Wolf of Wall Street is like that sexy version of it. Now, I do want to ask you if you can maybe, now that you've seen the movie very recently, could you take 60 seconds? You put 60 seconds on the clock, and I want to see if you can tell me the plot of this movie in 60 seconds, after which we're going to bring in our very special guest. So 60 seconds. It's called Tell Me the Plot.
Okay.
And go.
Okay, so it starts off with Bud Fox. He's a broker at a firm up in New York City. And, obviously the craziness, hustle bustle of, New York City with all the brokers and all that good stuff. He is not making all that much money. And so he's been trying to land this really big account that is Gordon Gekko. He is able to eventually finagle himself into meeting him. He ends up getting his confidence, and Gekko ends up investing him. They end up developing this kind of weird mentor-mentee relationship. He ends up convincing him to do a lot of illegal stuff and his name, and that's the whole thing where he ends up like challenging him quite a bit, his morals and ethics regarding not only his job but the way he handles money and his future, all that good stuff. And so eventually he ends up getting a really weird situation where his dad is involved, and it really starts to unravel and kind of start a domino effect, and where he's like, oh shit, bad things are actually happening, and how many people have I really got involved? So, and not to mention there's a lot of punches at the very end.
Well, you know what? I think that's. Oh wow! You know what? Can you hear this? Do you know what my sound is for my timer alert? I just found this out yesterday when it scared the shit out of me. It's the Pennywise sound cue from It. Like I was cooking something and suddenly it was like, ah. It was terrible.
Very on brand.
Very on brand, very scary. I have no memory of doing that. That was a pretty good. That's like a very good teaser description of that movie, Alex, because you did everything except give away the very end of it, which is kind of what you're supposed to do. However, now we're going to bring on somebody because I'm neutral. Today I'm going to stay neutral. I've seen this movie. I like this movie. I watched it again, but I don't have that much to say about it. However, we do have somebody who has a lot of things to say about it, and that's our very, very special. It's one of my producers. It's somebody who's worked with the show before. It's Sean Barriteau. Hey, Sean.
Oh, wow. Oh, hello. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. So,
what up, Sean?
Hi, Alex, Drew. Thank you again for having me on. I
really like your background.
So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's your history with this movie? Can you put in some context? Why out of all the movies that you wanted us to see, was Wall Street?
Well, it's not my favorite movie, but like I was telling you ladies before the show started, it's the most important movie that I've seen, only because, so this movie came out in 1987, so I was 7 when that came out, so I just dated myself, but that's fine. But I hadn't seen it until I was in, I hadn't seen it until I was in high school. So I actually saw it in economics class. So we had an economics teacher, her name was, oh my God, Miss Macri, which she was teaching us economics, and she thought it was a good idea to show us Wall Street. And before I seen this movie, I liked movies, but I never really took it. I was kind of like Alex. I would only watch certain types of movies, and normally this isn't a movie that I would have normally watched. So when I did see it for the first time, it kind of really just kind of brought my love of cinema to me. It's like, oh, this is what a real movie looks like, instead of just like funny comedies or like silly movies that I would normally watch. This was like the first serious movie that I've ever seen. So it really got my love of cinema to the point where I wanted to be a filmmaker. So that's why this movie is very, very important to me.
Well, can you tell me a little bit, like what was it that made it seem like cinema as opposed to like a movie? Like was it the way they shot it? Was it the plot? Was it the
themes?
Oh yeah.
I think it was just a combination of everything, like the character of Bud Fox, the character of Gordon Gekko, just the intrigue, the manipulation, the lines in it, the way it was shot. I love Suits, or just seeing like everybody in suits all the time was just that's kind of why I dressed up a little bit today for the show. So I
no one's gonna mention that. I'm like dressed as Wall Street. Money never sleeps. We'll get to our favorite lines in a minute of this movie. Yeah. I screamed out loud when they said the titular line of the sequel. But can you add anything on to the plot analysis, the quick, brief plot analysis Alex gave? Can you sort of expand a little bit more on what this movie is about and some of the themes or plot points?
I mean, the main thing about this movie is about greed. I mean, every character except for 2 are driven by greed. So every decision that the majority of the cast makes is all about money. And Bud Fox is, I'm curious to hear what Alex thinks about Bud Fox, because he's not a really likable guy, in my opinion, the same as Gordon Gekko. So it's really, really interesting where the protagonist he's not really a protagonist in this movie. I don't really think there is a main protagonist, to be honest. They're protagonists.
Maybe the dad.
The dad and Lou. Dad and Lou. They're the only honest people in this movie. The only ones. So they have the moral compass, not Bud Fox, in my opinion.
I think that's really interesting to say. I mean, like, okay, so I guess getting into it a little bit more, if people haven't seen the movie or they haven't seen it in a while, beyond the fact that like this is a broker who wants to get ahead in the world, and he's trying to land this big fish client, and it sort of becomes this, it's kind of like that thing where you think you're stalking the hunter, but like, it's technically stalking you because this guy is trying to land this big account, and the account turns out to be it's basically a deal with the devil kind of situation, right? Like and so Bud's dad works, at first we think he's the head of a giant airplane thing. Like we think that he's the head of an airplane company, but it turns out he's not. He just works there. He's like a mechanic, right? Like he's I forget the name of it. This is going to be like a 5-pointer one day. So what's the name of the airplane? It's like it's
Blue Star.
Blue Star.
Yeah. Blue Star. That's what I thought. Blue Star. Oh, sorry. This is going weird things. I'm trying to connect
my 100% a Schmoedown question.
That's what. Yeah, that's
the most pointer right there.
It's the most Schmoedown question that's never been asked. Sorry, I'm just going to stop doing this screen sharing thing. But so his dad doesn't work for this company. His dad works for the company. He's not the head of the company. And he convinces his dad to get in league with Gordon Gekko, who wants to buy them out. And he's promising them that he's going to make the company he's going to give it back to the people. He's giving this whole speech about greed being good and why greed works for the economy. And basically, the speech that he gives is a really good speech because it's very effective use of like why capitalism at its best should work, because capitalism at its best is people our companies competing with each other to give you the lowest price to get down to the lowest margin, and all these fat cats and all these vice presidents that are getting paid by different boards to that don't need to exist. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to connect something. So that's what this little weird thing is. Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird, interesting concept, because he's saying that these companies have too much padding, that there's too much, vice presidents who don't do any jobs, and that he's coming in, and greed is good because greed makes people competitive. And when people get competitive, it's better for the market and that kind of stuff. And that's all actually a pretty good argument for capitalism. But at the end of the day, he's not actually trying to do that. He's just trying to make money himself. He's trying to break down companies into spare parts, and he doesn't stand for any of these things that he claims to be standing for.
Yeah, you know what's kind of weird? This based on that mini description, I feel like this is almost might be a prequel-ish to the movie Pretty Woman. because that's what Richard Gere's character does. He buys companies. He figures out how to buy companies, and he breaks them up and sells them to the highest bidder. His words, and that's very Gordon Gekko-ish.
There's another movie. Think about it. You know what? The word is now that I think. Go ahead.
That was one of the things at the time. They're called corporate raiders, so they would literally just come in and buy it out and then break it up. So I mean, it could easily be that, but that was the thing in the 80s before the market crashed.
Yeah. You know who else's job it is? I know he's a lawyer, but it's basically the job of Peter Banning in Hook. We're talking about you're a pirate, Peter. The idea that he doesn't do anything, he doesn't make anything. He literally just he breaks things down. There's I feel like there's 3 or 4 movies where someone's job is described as you don't create anything. It's also a line in Hamilton. You don't create, you just want to move our money around. It's with the idea of the whole idea of Wall Street. The whole idea of Wall Street was kind of created by Alexander Hamilton. Let's not forget. So that's
he does say it in the movie. I create nothing. I own.
Yeah. It's even mentioned. I mean, I saw the movie Hello, Dolly for the first time the other day. Hey, what's up, Rob? Thanks for dropping by. I saw the movie Hello, Dolly for the first time just the other day with Barbara Streisand and Walter Matthau. Matthew?
Matthau?
At the very end,
He's
there's an
actor.
Yeah, it's a MATTHAU. That's how it's spelled. I think so.
EAU? I think it's EAU, but maybe I'm thinking
okay. Well, regardless, it's a.
No, you're right. You're right.
But the point is though, he's there's this whole conversation towards the very end where he's what's the point of money just sitting at bank? You want it to be like manure. You want it to spread around, and you want everyone to have a little bit of it, because that way they're able to kind of build up, and they're able to build businesses and circulate and all that good stuff.
It's a really good commentary on this idea that a lot of American industry went away at some point, and all we have are people who don't make anything or create anything. All they do is you can say it's the vice presidents, you can say it's Wall Street, you can say, I mean, this is one of these movies that seems a lot different today than it did when it came out, because the 80s was a hugely capitalistic time, where this movie, I'm not I'm sure we can talk a little bit. We can get it, and Sean can probably tell us a little bit more than I could by trying to Wikipedia it real quick. But I'm sure like this movie at the time was way more of a commentary on something that seemed at the time actually like good, or like, you know, there's a reason American Psycho takes place when American Psycho takes place. It's because these ideas of masters of the universe, this was something to aspire to. Now we kind of all think of it and we're like Occupy Wall Street, all these, you know, we think of Wall Street as something that's not maybe not the best.
It's not, well, especially because this idea of excess, especially in the 80s, excess money, excess stuff. We want the bigger, the better, the prettier.
We can talk about this.
So it's like the whole idea of excess, you know, obviously, not only I feel like it's perfect for American Psycho, also great double feature again. Oh my Lord, that'd be a great double feature, wouldn't it, Sean? But, you know, by the same time, it's, you know, in the 80s, it was all about that. And I feel like we're going to be kind of mentioning it later, because I don't know how that would do well if it was adapted to today, because I feel like
if we did
our priorities as a society have changed, especially with this idea that, you know, people are minimalizing now more than ever, that you only buy what you need, not what you want. Are people actually doing that all that much? Probably not, obviously. But I know more than ever, people are kind of, you know, striving towards that. And so the idea of more is not as prevalent as before.
I wonder too, like, okay, so we talk about whether this movie is relevant today or whether they do well today. Well, there's a very easy answer in that after the 2008, you know, the bubble burst, when we already started hating Wall Street, they came out with a sequel to this movie that we can talk a little bit about. And the whole point of that was to kind of recontextualize Wall Street and the movie Wall Street, and the idea that, like in the movie, these people turn out to be villains. And it's sort of like, it's supposed to be sort of a cautionary tale. Now you look at this movie and you're like, of course they're the bad guy. Like, of course, like the idea that Bud Fox started out as anything other than a bad guy. Like, is he supposed to be like a hero's journey? Like he's not he works on Wall Street trying to get money. He's like a leech, and he's an asshole to his coworkers. Like he's an asshole to Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
I know. I was like, oh wait, there's like a where he like mentions is like cocksucker, and that was the line he says, and I was like, oh, is that a omen?
It was so good, Dr. Cox. There's also, by the way, guys, did you notice another great cameo from Ultron and Robert
James
California
Spader
himself? There's a great James Spader cameo in this movie.
Spader.
So,
and it's prime. Oh,
Spader, what is his deal? Why did Spader talk so different in like another era? Like before Spader turned 50, his voice sounded like another guy. Like he had a very soft-spoken voice.
He started making money in this, at least in this century, doing lots of different types of I feel like he's almost like, I don't want to say he's a character actor now, but I feel like a lot of movies that he's involved with now, at least for the past like 15, 20 years that I can think of, there are a lot of the very similar characters where he
was always a creepy character actor.
Yeah.
I think. He was always that, because like he was the drug dealer in that Robert Downey Jr. movie. He's always played sort of bad, creepy guys.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about we talk about Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which like rocketed him to that indie stardom acclaim. He's playing like a kind of creep. Yeah, he's great pull. The other Crash, the Cronenberg Crash. It's just more like he went from being like a soft creep to like a very like a deep.
Like his voice matured a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say like Michael Douglas's, because Michael Douglas now sounds like an old lesbian, but then I realized halfway through that sentence that's because Michael Douglas had throat cancer. So that's actually not cool at all to say.
But to answer your lady's questions about if it could be made today, it actually could be, because a lot of it can be related to mutual funds. Because a lot of mutual funds are buying companies and pretty much doing exactly what the corporate raiders in the 80s did. Like look at Toys R Us. They got bought up by a mutual fund. They took all the money out and bankrupted the company. Yeah. And that's pretty much about it. So it could easily be made today in just a slightly different circumstances. But
absolutely.
We did get a donation. I want to make sure I read it before it goes off the screen. Oh, and it just did. It said, everybody, it was from Movie Fanobi. That was real cool, Drew. I like waited for the exact right second to interrupt just to say it just went off the screen. Okay, so 1 second. Keep
And now
talking.
you're little, and the other thing is big.
It's Movie Fanobi said, everyone's snazzy tonight. Martin Sheen's trying to teach us his real son some morality, drugs and money. Daryl Hannah, very 80s. What is going on? Very 80s movies. He said, well made, looking sharp. Looking sharp. Sean, a tip for you, sir. If you have examples or links to your project, share with lovely people. We will absolutely do that at the end. I don't know why this screen has suddenly gone all crazy. Boop. So that's a whole boop. Guys,
I do
think
it's kind of interesting now more than ever is that at least in Hollywood, we're a lot less forgiving of male characters being assholes. Like if and so I mean we're a lot, especially in light of different political movements and things like that. Not to say if you like this character that means you're an asshole or anything like that. That's absolutely not true. But we're quick to say, hey, this person, he's doing X, Y, and Z in the first few scenes. Not only is he obviously an awful person, but it's you kind of have to work that much harder in order to kind of regain that a goodness again, where you kind of gain the confidence of the audience. Now, I mean, there's a lot of characters where like it's just like we're seeing them not only thrive once they're better people, obviously, or they kind of learn life's lessons. But it's not something for a long time. It was like it's almost aspirational to be almost, I don't want to say an asshole, but it was almost aspirational to be like the cool asshole. Like for example, I mean, like Gordon Gekko, he's an awful person. He's not only an anti-hero, but there's this idea that you kind of want to aspire to him to a certain degree because he's so charismatic and cool and he makes money and that's what we all want. And
he tells it like it is. Like
he's very direct. Exactly. In that aspect, but I feel like as a society, we're a lot less forgiving of those characters now.
Well, right. Well, I think and again, not to be like too much, and Sean, we are going to let you talk. Don't worry, I promise. There's a
lot going on in this movie.
I like listening too, so it's okay.
So the thing about the sequel that for some reason I know, like for some reason, this is one of those movies where like I think I saw the sequel more times technically than I've seen the original. Like, even though the sequel is terrible, it's Wall Street 2, Money Never Sleeps, which is something they say in this movie. They go, money never sleeps, money never sleeps. The thing about it is that it's supposed to be Gordon Gekko. It's not focusing on Bud because Charlie Sheen was not doing so great in this period of his life. So he's only in it for a hot second, and he's like coming straight out. Like, I think his character is, spoiler alert, just out of jail, which is where he sort of ends up. We don't see him go to jail, but we do know that he ends up getting arrested by the feds and making a deal with them to trap Gordon Gekko and sort of do a wiretap thing. So we do know that that character did not, he met the fate that he deserved to get, but we also feel like that he was redeemed because he, at the end of the day, did make that deal with the feds, did talk to his, did tell his dad what was going on. Yeah. Was willing to do that kind of stuff.
I don't think he was redeemed, to be honest.
You don't? Okay. Tell me why.
Because he only did it because he got caught. Bud Fox is a bad guy. He's a bad guy. And the reason why we know he's a bad guy because Gordon Gekko tells us he's a bad guy. Because at the end of the movie, once he's like, I look at you and I see myself. Yeah. Because Bud Fox is Gordon Gekko. That's why as soon as he saw him, he's like that. Gordon Gekko's like, that used to be me, a guy who used to come from nothing. So and he learned how to play the game. And learn how to play the game and then come from nothing to great heights. So that's why he gave him the opportunity to do what he did. He didn't really force him to, because if you look when they were in the limo, he pretty much laid it out like, hey, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah, he wasn't being like he wasn't being like sly about it. He was like, do you want to like do this? Are you down for like doing these like illegal things? And you can watch because James Spader is less so, and you can watch like the other people at the firm like have different moral circles. But like what's interesting though, going back to this idea of like Americana and what this country was built on was the idea that like we come from nothing. We are all scrappy and hungry, and we're all like trying to like make our way. And there is this idea of the American dream being that you can come from nothing, and with enough hard work and like enough, like, you know, his dad comes from the idea that like you work at one job for 30 years, you slave away and you never get anywhere. And Bud Fox is like, F that, like I want to be which the huge idea at this time was they were called Masters of the Universe. Like it was the thing from Bonfire of the Vanities. It was the idea of these people controlling the world for their little place in like downtown New York, where they would oversee all of the world's finances. And what I think is sort of like the interesting needle to thread is that Bud makes the decision before he gets arrested to have the company be bought back by the people, like to have his dad, who had just had a heart attack, get redeemed, and to make the choice.
Well,
I do want to address something in the chat real quickly. John Carney, hello, dude.
John Carney, that's my buddy. John Carney.
What
gosh.
they do? What? Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that because John Carney worked on Wall Street and is a
nice.
CNBC and he's a money commentator, so he actually probably knows more than we do about what he actually did wrong. I guess depending what you say morally. You mean Gordon Gekko? I guess technically it was insider trading, right?
Yeah, they did mention it was insider trading, but also they purposefully.
His dad.
Sorry.
John's asking who gets harmed by the trades he does. Well, the dad.
The literal company where they mentioned Blue Star, where they say, we're going to be like thousands of people that have worked at this company for 4 generations.
Very
are
clearly
going to be losing their jobs because you want to make so much money specifically, and you plan to break it up. That's like your intention by doing this.
Right. I think what the difference is that Gordon Gekko holds himself up to be different than these vice presidents, these fat cats at the corporations that we see him give the big speech about. He's like, greed is good because it means that there's no middleman. There's nobody just getting rich off your pension. You know, these people collecting pensions without doing anything. He's holding himself different from that and saying he's going to come in and change stuff around. But technically, he's just the same as them. He just doesn't want to have to work at the same company for all this time.
He also he does lie to the union workers as well when he's talking about drawing up a contract.
Doesn't really lie. He just changes his mind.
Wait,
like,
John?
Absolutely, he does, and that's totally just, for sure. It's just that, it's like, oh, I'll drop a contract, I'll get it to you in a few days, kind of thing. But he's never like, he's really actively stringing them along. And I understand that is definitely like a business strategy, for, obviously.
It's a dumb character move. This is the only part of the movie that I think is like wrong or silly, is that like Gordon Gekko wouldn't try to fuck over his protege's dad. Like that's just like you wouldn't try to do that. That's like making an enemy out of the guy who knows all your secrets and has the power of your estate. It's not so much bad. It's just a huge mistake.
Yeah, he doesn't look at it that way. He looks at it like we're all going to make a lot of money. So your dad's not, just like he says in the movie, your dad's not going to have to work another day in his life. Yeah. So what's the problem? I looked at the deal again. He changed his mind. So I think there might have been a part of him that actually wanted to do the deal, but it's more easier for him because he even says in the movie, why would I want an airline? I have all, because the speech he's actually making is for another company called Teldar Paper. So he's taking that over and he's like, well, why do I? Bud convinces him to take on the airline. He makes a good changes his mind, like, well, I could make a lot of money just by breaking it up. So
good point. I would say the only thing is that he has that dinner scene with the dad, and the dad clearly is like, you're a piece of shit. Like you're a bad guy. And he isn't like, you know what? Fair enough. This is what I plan on doing to your company. He gives the dad a whole speech about how he's going to be giving the company back to the workers. So in that sense, he directly lies to Bud and Bud's father. And I could see how even if he's saying afterwards, but what's the problem? We're going to make a lot of money. You'd be like, yeah, but you're a shady piece of shit. Like, and I can never trust you again.
Not only that, it was just it seems like they're actively
misleading them.
Yeah, misleading them for the purpose of making more money for yourself. You're not doing it for the thing is, and when you're actively trying to make money for yourself on this level, that's great and all, all for making money. But at the same time, are you going to do it knowing the consequences, what's going to be for so many people? Like if I know if I'm going to gain $50,000 by if I was to fire 300 people at a smaller company, it's just like, yeah, well, that's what's kind of mentioned in this movie, John. Actually, thank you so much for bringing it up. Is that it's really mentioned, from the very beginning. Oh, it's like, oh, everyone does it. It's so chill. No one gets jail time for stuff like this. Not guys like us. So it's if anything, Gordon makes it seem like it's expected and encouraged, especially if you get up to a certain level financially.
I think what John is trying to say is something that he actually comes from a position I think that is more in line with I guess you'd call it maybe libertarian, maybe laissez-faire government, like the idea of the Gordon Gekko mentality, with the idea that if this movie was from a different perspective, if, for instance, he had taken over another company with the sole purpose of screwing over that guy that looks like Malcolm McDowell. Who's that guy we were just talking about?
It's like, sir.
If we were never taking the stand, if we were never taking the stance that Bud's dad's company was at stake, then this would just be that kind of like thriller about corporate, like about the one sort of anti-heroes against these other bigger bad guys, right? Like it wouldn't be a story it would be like the show Billions, right? Like you're not anti Damian Lewis on the show Billions, even though he's going up against Paul Giamatti's character, who's, Preet Bharara, New York.
Is he in the show? I don't think he's in the show Billions.
Yeah, Billions. Damian Lewis, the guy from Homeland.
Oh wait, I thought it was.
I think it's Succession.
Oh, that's right.
Succession's another great example. Like that's another.
I was like, tomato.
That's another show that's sort of like about a family, about a business, about and who the real bad guy is. As long as it's not happening to your family, then it's like you as a viewer can sympathize with the idea that this is corporate takeover. This is this is business. This is also how a lot of times the consumer ends up on the better end of the deal of things, because people will have businesses that will undercut prices. That's the idea of the competitive marketplace. Insider trading, I guess, messes with that idea a little bit. So I guess in that sense, you could make the idea that Gordon Gekko is bad because he is literally,
Is he bad? I mean, he's more like an anti-hero. He's just playing the game. He knows how the game works, and he's he knows what he can get away with and what he can't. And I'm curious to hear what you ladies think about this. Is Bud Fox actually a good guy? Because in my mind, he's not. I think he's
Gordon, I think.
No, he's basically Gordon, because what he tells you in the movie is basically he's okay. Yeah. The only reason he's doing what he's doing is because it's his dad's company. If this was another company, he wouldn't have had a problem with it. He would have kept doing what he was doing, regardless.
He's a hypocrite.
The only reason he got caught, he got busted. Otherwise, he would have kept breaking the law and doing whatever. He just wouldn't have done it with Gordon.
I guess maybe the idea is
or
that
at least he would have been trying to.
I guess the movie keeps itself
successfully though.
I think maybe the movie keeps it ambiguous enough because the arrest happens right after he pulls this maneuver with Terrence Stamp and his dad to take back the company. That maybe we have the idea that he had a change of heart and he would no longer be doing this kind of deal. Maybe he'd be working with the unions. Maybe he'd be working on the other side to prevent it. But the fact is, he does get it, because this is a moral story. He does get arrested and he does wear a wiretap, and that I feel like makes him a shittier character than Gordon Gekko. That makes him a worse guy, because Gordon Gekko is on the level for the most part, Gordon Gekko is telling you the kind of person he is and what he's going to do. Like, yes, you're right. The big thing is that he changes his mind. He's not actively lying to Bud's dad. It's just he changes his mind. He's like, Bud convinced him at an earlier point in the movie to do something else that would make better business savvy sense. So it's really Bud we're convinced he's doing it for a moral reason. Like, he would have worn a wire anyway, because at that point he was just like, he had made the decision that he deserved to be punished, that he wasn't doing that. He had done a bad thing. But like the idea that he's going to go to jail and he's going to take Gordon Gekko down with him, fine. I think he's a worse character than Gordon Gekko, who at least was upfront about everything that he was doing and wasn't lying to himself about the kind of person that he was.
Well, he did lie to Bud. He did lie. He didn't tell him about it, because once he changed his mind, he didn't tell Bud.
Oh no, he doesn't. That's That's true, but like when he says, "Hey, bud, I want you to go out and tail this guy, and I want you to find out where he's going," and he's Bud's not like confused. He's like very clearly like he's not seducing Bud into something. Bud has actively sought him out as like I'm reminded of the movie The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. You know, like where it's like he's just that good of a lawyer. He's got that moral gray line where he just, you know, it's almost like Better Call Saul too, and that's a anti-hero story where you're very much on the side of Saul Goodman for the show, you know, like he's very lovable, even though we're watching his moral like decay happen in front of our eyes. Like we understand the decisions that he's making, even as they're ambiguously getting like into worse and worse areas. Bud is not that likable of a character. And he's pretending to himself that he is a good guy who's like, you know, doing it for the family. He's you know, he's doing it because he likes this girl who, by the way, is the worst interior designer who has ever lived in my entire life. Like I like some scary ass looking shit. The way Daryl Hannah in this movie ruins a Upper West Side, or I guess
East Side.
By the way, that's completely arbitrary. When they were like, no one cool lives on the West Side; they live on the East Side. No one lives on the Upper West or East. That's not the cool part of Manhattan. But I get that rich people do sometimes. This scene's particularly upset me so much when she comes in and redecorates this apartment and takes the. We'll get into it, but yeah, she's supposed to be more like on the same level, I think, of. I guess she's supposed to be the reason that Gordon Gekko is kind of worse than Bud, because she's supposed to be sort of like halfway to a spy. But I don't think she's.
They're having an affair together.
Well, no, there was implied that they had an affair at one point, and they're just not telling Bud about it. But that she's going to always be on the same corner as Gekko when it comes to these. Yeah.
I think she is one of those characters, and not only is she kind of in, you know, Gekko's pocket, but they have this relationship where he almost plants her, not only as a spy, but she pretty much keeps him on track to really help him get into this idea that I want more, this idea of excess, and where she's almost like not only a motivating factor, but she's also someone that supports him in doing all this and knowingly doing this illegal stuff.
Okay. So. Here's another thing though, but again, he seeks her out. It's not like she's a spy who is, you know, again, this is something that
back right away, and she knows everything that's going on.
I don't think Gordon is like wants him to, her to be with him. It just happens to be that way.
And I think that again, this goes to the point that he's not an innocent person being corrupted, but actively wants to be Gordon Gekko. He actively wants her, and she's awful.
Yeah, like, but you can still be in that situation and still be even pushed where someone is not only thing is, if you're doing bad stuff, you know, obviously, but someone is telling you, whispering in your ear, hey, it's not bad stuff, you're just doing cool stuff, you know. So it's not only is it nice to kind of have that, just kind of reaffirm it for you, but it's just really, I feel like it's
like, let's put this in the chat. I want to take this to the chat before we go into our like favorite, you know, scenes and lines of the movie. What do you guys think?
Well, I just want to like answer Alex's question a little bit. Well, because the reason why I don't think Bud's a good guy is
I agree. He's not a good guy.
The moment when when he never sleeps line, when he calls him and tells him, I just wired you $800,000. Play with it. Do whatever you want. I don't care where and how you get it. I want new information. He doesn't tell Bud to break the law. He's like, I don't care how you do it. You could do it the correct way. Just get me new information. He's not telling him to break the law. Bud decides on his own to break the law.
100%. And guys, I'm really excited to share with you.
And he brings his friends into it. It's like and
those people he's lying to. Yeah. Those people, unlike Gordon, he is actively lying to people, or not actively lying, but he is seducing what's his name? Yeah, no, he's seducing his lawyer friend, James
Spader,
he's seducing him. He's saying Gordon Gekko never says everyone's doing it. That's him saying it to James Spader. Now James Spader is a lawyer. He doesn't know necessarily, yes, he should know better, but he's not on Wall Street. And so if he has a friend telling him, don't worry, this is just what everyone's doing, that's way worse than Gordon Gekko, like telling somebody who has sought him out who's lied already to get in the doorway of his life, right? So like Bud lies to get in the door. I've got a couple of things I want to show you guys.
Maybe that's the point. Almost, we start off thinking we're going to identify with this character, this potentially Cinderella story situation where he's learning from a mentor. He's if he works hard enough, he's gonna go to the top. You know, kind of idea where we end up like with this idea that we are going to be really empathizing with this character, and we do to a certain limit, obviously.
Guess what? John Carney, one real quick second. John Carney, that's going to be a whole section of the show at the end. So why don't we wait for that? Because
that would have been my pick, but
just saying, I have the best picks today.
I know.
We'll see.
Guys, real quick, I do have something to show you, which is a lot of pictures of things that I hate about this movie, which is everything that Daryl Hannah does to this fucking apartment. My God, you fucking monster. No one is actually more monstrous in this movie than Daryl Hannah and what she does to this poor New York apartment. My God, like, what is she doing?
It comes down to more, essentially.
But you can't take walls. Brick. It's real exposed brick, and she's covering it up.
No, it's not real exposed brick. He tapes he staples a thing of break facade.
Yeah.
And then yes, because you can see it on the side. That's clearly plaster, or that's not real brick. But essentially, so we start off thinking that we're going to empathize with this character, and so we kind of go into it with that mentality. Thing is, we later realize that not only is he arguably as bad or worse than Gordon Gekko, we're like, holy shnikes. And that, I'm empathizing with a character that's worse than the villain, or at least who is supposed to be the villain. Therefore, you're thinking to yourself, wait, am I that bad? You know, would I be if I were in this situation, would I be that bad? Or how far would I go to that kind of level?
Right, because Alex, I think you're exactly right. We start out the movie, again, because America's built on this idea of young, scrappy, hungry, come from nothing, come from blue collar, make your way up in the world. He's willing to lie to get in the door of Gordon Gekko. He's willing to do whatever it takes to like make this money for himself and his family. You know, like I just want to sing Hamilton too. But like the idea is that Gordon Gekko is like, fine. And then it's on Bud to do this backslide, to do all the decisions that are morally corrupt. You're right. Gordon Gekko never tells him he never says do this or else like you're fired, because he doesn't work for him. He's like, if you want to make money and you want to learn from me, this is how I roll. And Bud is more than happy to oblige every single step of the way until it becomes about his family, in which case he suddenly gets like a moral change of consciousness.
He does kind of insinuate that in order to get that kind of wealth, because at the very beginning, Marvin, played by the Doc Cox character, I can't remember his name.
Somebody else.
I know his character name is Marvin, but I can't remember with the glasses. But he's mentioned like, oh, I don't want to be like that guy, that's been doing this for like 30 years, or I don't want to be like this guy that's still, be like Luke. So they make it seem like you can never get up to that level like Gordon Gekko is, unless or at least it's insinuated, unless you do something extra, potentially illegal, maybe not, but that's what they kind of insinuate. And that's what Gordon, he kind of mentions, hey, this is how I roll. This is how much money I make. I'm giving you a check for this much money, and I'm telling you to go get a better food. And therefore, like, and so it's pretty much you either want success or you want mediocrity.
I love how John Carney is now like, he is totally agreeing with her, because again, John Carney is somebody who's very well versed on this stuff, who talks about Wall Street for a living and has been involved with Wall Street forever. And so the fact that this guy is now telling us, he's an old friend of mine, that he's saying that we're exactly right about the movie is like a very good sign. It's like the time that Quentin Tarantino told me that I was like correct about my like assessment about one like moment from Django Unchained. That's that kind of like, I feel both proud and also like horrified that I'm getting this right. Can I just go back to this part?
If this movie was made, if like you could actually make a mini series about Gordon Gekko. He's an anti-hero. He'd be like Better Call Saul or the Soprano. He's Tony Soprano.
Okay, well, that's the thing. That those series, they don't age very well in retrospect. Sure, we talk about them. It's like, sure, we talk about them being, really great anti-heroes and how they changed in the golden age of television, etc. But we also talk about how, especially in the age of, new movements, as far as like, for example, the Me Too movement and things like that, where all these horrible things that, for a long time, it's like, if you can be an asshole, but you can still be successful, and we can strive to be like you to some degree, but we're more and more likely to call you out on that shit. We're not going to call you an anti-hero. We're just straight up calling you a villain now.
There are great shows that are still about this very issue. Succession is a fantastic program that literally is about insider trading, family monopolies, like on the media. There's Billions, which is, again, not a show that I super love, but is a very good show about where the person that I think you're supposed to relate to is the Paul Giamatti Barr's stand-in, who's working with the government to bring down Damian Lewis's big corporate evil guy. But it's like in the world's a crazy ex-girlfriend, it's like a little bit more nuanced than that, right? Like it's not that it's just that these people are bad or whatever. There's layers of complexities and complicity that makes it really hard.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad, or The Shining. Jack
Very much
Breaking Bad. He starts up. You don't realize it yet, but he is a bad guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only
that's why Kubrick,
and the more layers we go through, and we're like, holy crap, he is actually a legit bad guy. He's not a good guy in a bad situation. He's just a legit bad guy to the core.
You want to hear my theory about that show in the first episode? Right at the very end of that episode, when they're in a clothing store and those guys making fun of him, and then he leaves and he comes back and he confronts them. In my mind, that's the last time we actually see I can't remember his name now. Oh my God. What's the character's name? Walter White. Yes. We never see Walter White ever again. He's Heisenberg from that moment on.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, and it's a very similar thing with the butt idea, which is, I'm doing it for the family. I'm doing it for my family. No, you're not. Like, you're a selfish prick. Like, you're doing it for you. You're doing it for you because it felt good. And, like, you can tell yourself you're doing it for your family, but you're hurting your family. Like,
he's willing to hurt everybody. He doesn't care. And he even tells in the movie, he's like, when Danahan is telling him, don't cross him, he'll crush you. He's like, why do you want to do this? He's like, well, so what's stopping someone else from doing the exact same thing? He's like, well, as long as I'm not pulling the trigger. So it's not like I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. I'm doing it because I'm involved and I gave my word to these people that it was going to be this way versus that. Not doing it because it's the right thing to do because he's involved. He's not a good guy. He's a bad guy.
I think that's a great point. Like, what we're talking about here is what Oliver Stone does very well in this movie is something that is almost suited better for this golden age of TV because it is able to do a lot more complex things. But Walter White is a great comparison to Bud Fox. Saul Goodman's a great comparison to Bud Fox. But whereas Bud Fox's story had to end, so we have this weird thing where we're like, did he even change, or did he did he think he deserved the jail? Blah blah. We never get to find that out because it's a movie and it's only allowed this much runtime. We never get to find out, like, Gordon Gekko, like, how good of a family man he was, whether he had some, like, good intentions or stuff like that. We never get to find out why he's licking his son's hand in that one scene. Oh, my God. Did anyone catch that? There's one scene where they're in the Hamptons. His son, like, comes up to him with a sticky hand, and he just straight up takes his son's hand and licks it. And
I'm not going to lie. I've done that.
He's Oliver Stone's son? You've licked a child's hand.
Yeah.
What the? I mean, maybe it's a post-COVID thing, but I was like, that's he's in the middle of talking. And he's like,
I remember just like babysitting and being around like friends and family that have kids. Sure as heck, yes, I've done that. And they're just like, eat it. And they're like, and they just have like a thing of whatever in their hand. And you're like, okay, fine.
Yeah, Weston,
it's like,
it's just, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's just whatever.
Do you guys think he was sleeping with that other woman? I think so.
And I think he did at one point.
Wait, the other woman. There's multiple women.
There's one woman.
Obviously, his wife, which is showing him, which funny thing about her, she was begging and pleading to play Sean Young, who played Michael Douglas.
That's Sean Young?
Yes.
Yeah,
That was Sean Young. That was
100%
Blade Runner Sean Young.
Kate,
Yes.
her character name is
There's-
Kate Gecko, but that is played by Sean.
So wait. That was Ace Ventura Pet Detective Sean Young.
Yes.
That was getting drunk at the Golden Globes and yelling over whoever's speech, Sean Young.
Yes.
I think that's the last time we saw Sean Young. Okay, I didn't realize that was Sean Young.
Yeah, so she was begging, pleading to play the Dan Hannon part because the crew actually didn't like her, Hannah, because she didn't get the part at all. She was not very happy with it, and Sean Young was begging and pleading Oliver Stone, like recast it, put me in there. But she was showing up late and not being very professional, so that's why her role actually got cut. She was the wife was supposed to. There was actually supposed to be a subplot where Bud was having an affair with her, but because
that would have been
that's one of the reasons why Gordon Gekko was very
that's
violent at the end of the movie, because there was supposed to be that subplot where they were having.
That is such a good thing that I'm so mad got cut, because I love the complexity of that. That Bud was also stealing this guy's. That Bud not only, but that Bud is such the bad guy. That Bud is such the bad guy. That Bud is like fucking. Because I don't think Daryl Hannah and Gecko are still having an affair. I think they used to, because she goes, did you like, he mentions, why don't we ever do like we used to? And she's like, blah, blah. I think that was in the past, and they just never informed Bud. The fact that like Bud would actively be taking something away from Gordon, like that he would so covet what Gordon had, that he'd be sleeping with Gordon's wife. That's like a line in the sand, right? That's another level. By the way, guys, I forgot to say in a while, but please like and subscribe to the video, and streamlabs.com/VideoDrew, all the things.
I have several, I don't want to say problems with that statement, but I definitely have several disagreements. Okay, Sean Young is actually also an actress, and during the mid-late 80s, she actually was very vocal about how she was assaulted, by Harvey Weinstein several times.
Right.
Who also is one of the producers of a lot of Oliver Stone movies at this time. Now,
so wait, what's the problem? Or what do you have a problem with?
Oliver Stone, I don't know if he did this one, but okay, so Harvey Weinstein, he would purposely blacklist Sean Young as an actress, where she couldn't get any roles, or only get itty bitty roles, where he would block from getting auditions. But also he would come on set and on different movies that he was involved with as producers and his company was involved with. And so essentially just to pretty much mess with her.
This was pre, I think this was very much pre.
That's not what happened in this case.
This was pre-Weinstein. I can almost 100% guarantee you that Wall Street was pre-Weinstein and his movie production.
Oliver Stone has also backed Weinstein for a while. He did, but
wait, I think we're talking about two separate things here. Sean Young's wanting there to be that subplot that was in there. I think that's one thing, and saying why she didn't get that or not. She is also notoriously had issues to work with people, and that's why. That's what it was. She freaked out at the Golden Globes.
She was showing up late to set.
Yeah. I don't know. We can't say.
So that's why her role got.
We can't say at the end of the day why.
I know a lot of actresses like Scarlett Johansson has been. She has a long history of being notoriously difficult to work with, but we don't really talk about them in the same ways. A lot of actors.
I think that's besides. But before we go down to the rabbit hole about what Sean Young did or didn't do, I think the point that we're trying to make here is more that there was this interesting subplot that would have developed the character further. But ended up getting cut, and I think we can speculate all we want about why we got cut, but I think that's kind of a fruitless avenue for this particular conversation, because we're talking about we're talking about the movie and the character. It's crazy that I didn't recognize it as Sean Young. That is how brief they made her part. But I don't think I would have bought her in the Daryl Hannah role, but I really would have loved to see that role as the wife made bigger. It would have been kind of the correlation of The Godfather. To see the world, to see that world through the eyes of the wife would be like the end of Godfather Part 1, where it's like the closing of the door. To see that wife then take some agency and have an affair with the younger protege, that would have been like a great thing for that for essentially only a one female role movie.
Well, that's the thing. I do 100% agree with that. That Daryl Hannah, she has this line in the movie where she's like, "We would have been great. I would have supported you going through this. We could have been so great together." And I'm like, wait, hold the phone. So, but I also kind of wonder if her aspirations is to be like a cake gecko, like Sean Young's situation.
Absolutely.
Where so it feels like that. Where almost they're more like partners rather than just a husband and wife.
Oh, they're absolutely partners. And by the way, did you notice
that? Where they're like legit partners in crime.
Well, I think she just wants to be successful. I don't think she cares who she's with.
Exactly.
And just like, and then Gordon Gekko reminds her, it's like, hey, don't fall too hard. You've been around the block. He hasn't. You know how this really
She's
works.
looking for her ticket. She's looking for her ticket. She's looking for her version of Gordon Gekko. And she thinks maybe it could be this guy. And she heard from Gekko, hey, he's a younger version of me. And she's like, fuck yeah. This guy, I'm gonna get him, and he's gonna be my ticket to the top. And
it's sort of like Megan Hercules. She has this moment where she starts to fall for him. We never really see that develop. We never see her get the conscience. We actually only see her kind of as a villainous character. But we hear from her own lips that she's starting to fall for Bud. But you notice their first date is very much like, tell me about your thing that you want to do. And he's like, I want to make so much money that I can ride a motorcycle through China. Really random thing. Like, that's weird. I thought that was a weird line for that to be Bud's aspiration. Her dream is to be like the Lane Bryant or whatever.
She wants to be the Laura. She wants to do
Laura Ashcroft
furniture what Laura Ashley did for fabric.
Yes,
and so she wants that line. She wants to create a line of antiques at a low cost.
Yeah.
And now again, look at the background on my screen. She's a terrible interior designer, but you know what? Good for her. Great for her. She wants to create a Target line. She wants to be I for Target.
Yeah, no, I think that it's that she could only get so far at being Gordon Gekko's mistress. So she wants to go be someone's legit girlfriend and potential partner in the long term.
I think at the end of the day, she would have been happy going off on, if there was a way for her within this system to get that level of success and achieve that level of fame on her own, she would have been happy to do so. It's just that she didn't see any opportunities available to her except to attach herself. I don't think she even saw it as like attaching herself to a guy and leeching off of him. She truly was like, I want to do a partnership. I want to do a thing where like, you're making the money, you invest in me, I make us very rich in one lane, and you make me rich in another. It's sort of like the House of Cards, like the show House of Cards. Like they're two functioning, contributing members of the household. It's not like she just wants to be a housewife. She has ambitions to have.
She needs access, and that's one of the reasons why she didn't want to cross Gordon, because she says, "Hey, Gordon he gave me all my clients. He could take them away like that." So she knows I need access to these people, and potentially Bud is my way to keep the access, because sooner or later, maybe Gordon doesn't fall out of favor with her, and then her access is gone. So I think that's why she looks at Bud and like, that's a way. If he's an up and comer, I can keep my access. And and if I love the guy,
I think we're also making her out to be a little bit more villainous than she is. Once again, this is something that Bud pursued. She was dating another dude and pretty happy with, or like fine with him, as far as we know. Bud comes in and like pulls like an audible and is like, no, I want you. He's the one making the propositions about like what they're going to be doing with each other. She's at no point seducing him. She's saying, here's my dreams, here's my aspirations. You want in with this. And then later, when they're together and he's saying, I want to fuck over Gordon Gekko, she's like, don't do that. And she is on Gordon's side, and that you can say that she's made more villainous that way. But I would argue that
the funny thing. Well, sorry. The funny thing about that is there's actually an alternate ending to this movie that they shot where Bud is walking up this. It pretty much is the exact same thing, but as he's walking up the courthouse, we see Hannah coming down the stairs with no makeup, pretty much saying, "You know what? I'm with you now."
Ew,
which
that's disappointing.
That would have been
I wouldn't have liked that
ending, and neither would I. But it's really interesting to see if they would.
I would have hated that.
Yeah, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's
you know what it is? It is. You know what's very funny is, okay, so again, this is very reminiscent of Bonfire of the Vanities, which is a very famous Thomas Wolfe book that was made into a terrible movie that, to Carney's point, did star Tom Hanks in a role that made no sense for him, because it is about a master of the universe. The book is great. It's about a master of the universe who gets who accidentally runs over a kid in like Harlem while on a date with somebody. I can't seem to get the screen right. Okay, I'm going back to the terrible wallpaper. He runs somebody over and becomes this huge tipping point between almost like the Black Lives Matter protests of that time period, where he's getting in trouble for this thing, and it becomes this huge cultural tipping point. And there's these, this district attorney trying to make his name, and it's very much about New York during this time, people that are trying to make a name for themselves by taking up fake causes or calling out causes, using the steam of people's anger and outrage over mistreatment over by white rich Wall Street people, and using them and manipulating that to the advantage. And in the book, the wife, who has pretty much been like a nothing character, because the dude's having an affair, and she's not really been in the movie, she's not really been in the story. At the end of the book, she's sticking with her husband, and they're giving each other a dap as he goes to jail for this crime that he technically didn't commit. I think it was his girlfriend who ran the kid over, but he's taking the fall. But it's just very reminiscent of this. Where does the woman stand in these stories? And how, it's kind of like how we all hated Skylar White, even though Skylar White was technically please don't be this person, but she was seen as a nag. It's where's the female character supposed to stand in these stories? And is there any way to make her likable / likable unlikable, the way that we dislike Gordon Gekko, but we get that he's charismatic and we want to see more of him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess that brings me to what are your favorite characters or scenes or lines from this film?
Well, I was just going to ask that character-wise, I actually really love diving into Daryl Hannah's character, Darian. I really just... Yeah. I didn't really find her relatable or anything personally, but I can, she's a character that I don't want to say she's bloodthirsty, but she sees what she wants. She recognizes it, and she's like, "This is my goal," and I understand that. Especially because I remember being in college and I had some girlfriends where they're they would date for the purpose of getting the next guy, essentially, because they just wanted to date up.
But are we trying to say that she's somehow worse than the dudes in this movie, who, by the way, are just using her as a status symbol? Maybe she wants to maybe to a certain degree, she recognizes that people see her as arm candy, essentially, and she's treated as such, and so she's able to just be able to accumulate this information because no one takes her seriously. So they're going to say shit in front of her, and they're going to be dropping these little nuggets of info, and she's just kind of slowly picking everything up and puzzling things together because she's actually smart, and people really do underestimate her because I do feel overall there's a lot to really dive into that character. Favorite scene? There's one scene in particular that I can't that I keep thinking about. Okay, so there's a scene where he gets his apartment and he gets this awesome $950,000 apartment in East Side, and it's all great. But they are making dinner. Yes, it's so bad. What the fuck?
It's so bad. But they make dinner for the first time together. They have this little cute moment where they're making pasta and sushi and stuff, and that's cute, whatever. Okay, so they sit down to eat. But they're no, and they're oh, it's so perfect, to eat. And Bud is let's just look at it, and so there's this idea that everything is perfect, ready to go for your consumption, for you to eat and consume, obviously, for your benefit. Yeah. But they're no, let's not ruin it by eating it and doing something awful. Let's just admire it, essentially. So I feel that's very reminiscent about how he treated his relationship with her.
Sorry. I just saw that this task manager thing was taking up the thing. Adelia did donate some money to the stream. I'm still learning this. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Adelia donated $5. I'm going to read your comment in a second, Adelia. I'm just trying to get this Streamlabs thing off the ground, so bear with me. I agree that there's this kind of idea here that she's that they're both in this kind of weird relationship where they're not there for the right reasons or whatever. I think of her as she's a cipher character, unfortunately. There's interesting things to be done with her character, and that's why I kind of wish the Sean Young subplot had played out, because I would have loved to see where that wife is standing. That's the whole thing about Diane Keaton and Godfather. That's sort of, what did I get it myself into? Oh, I am complicit in the system. Oh, as a woman in this system, I can only do so much. So I have to work around it. Why am I keep reminding myself of Meg from Hercules? But it's very much like Meg from Hercules.
I love Meg from Hercules.
She's working for Hades, but she's trying not to. But she's trapped in the system, and she can only do what she can do in a certain way. And We see this play out a lot of times in a lot of different dynamics, especially, in Mad Men, in a bunch of shows, in movies, especially that took place before the Me Too movement. They almost glamorized that sort of anti-hero woman, heroized or demonized her as somebody who was willing to take advantage of a man. But technically, the man is taking just as much advantage of her, if not more. And at least the woman knows that she has a time limit expiration date on her, which is that she's a trophy and she's not going to be there forever. So I like Daryl Hannah's character because at least she's like Gordon Gekko, just above board with what's going on. Like Bud seems to be the only one confused about why he's acting the way he's doing. Yenrik, donation, another.
He doesn't know he's the bad guy, but everybody else is pretty honest about what the world is. He doesn't like the point where he's like looking it out to the horizon. He's like, "Who am I?" He's like, really the bad guy? You're like, yeah, you actually are the bad guy, dude. But he doesn't want to believe it.
That actually is very funny because that is exactly the scene. That's exactly the scene that they stole in Zoolander. Like that's the line. That's why he says it. That's why he says the line in Zoolander, "Who am I?" He's taking it from Charlie Sheen and Wall Street. Like I read this interview that Ben Stiller just always thought it was really funny that character like goes out on like the balcony and is like, "Who am I?" So that's why Derek Zoolander did it. Adelia donated $5 saying that I'm still feeling sick and like shit, but I'm happy to be hanging out with some of my favorite people and learning about a movie I haven't seen it and other things I know nothing about. Great episode as always. Thank you, Adelia. Yenrik donated $15. Thank you guys so much for your donations. Again, I know this is kind of like a weird, not great system at the moment, but we're working on it, and we appreciate all the donations and all the love. It's John saying it's better than some dumb movie tonight. Thanks. I mean, I will say my favorite lines in this movie are very obviously like greed is good. That whole speech is great. I think for some reason I really love that character that Dr. Cox plays. That traitor, that traitor, and by the end of the movie, when he says cocksucker, he's wearing this baseball hat that makes no sense. It's like he's going to go pitch at a baseball game because it's a plastic hat.
It's like one of those like fake ones.
It's what?
No. That's what the catchers wear.
Yeah, but why is he wearing it? He's on Wall Street. Like, don't. Well, is that like a trucker hat? Was that like a stylistic piece?
No, I mean like, but okay. So when you go to a baseball game, essentially. When you go to a baseball game or you get any kind of treats and stuff, you get like sometimes you get like free or as like trinkets or whatever. You can get like toy versions of like baseball caps and stuff like that. And that's what he did. But there was like a handful of brokers in the office that had like weird little toys. Like there was a guy that had like a fake mustache on. Like a cartoonish mustache, like that was down here, and there was like another guy that had like the big glasses with a fake nose attached to it.
I think that was just people's. I think that was just what people were wearing back then.
What team was on that helmet he was wearing?
I think it was.
That's what. It was the worst team of all flipping time. That's it.
Wow, I've heard you say that they're the best team of all time.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a second about a movie that I think makes this film stand out just all the more starker, all the more Game of Thrones starker, which is we can't talk about Wall Street without saying how would it hold up today? What would it look like today? Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty clear that it looks like something like Martin Scorsese's film, Wolf of Wall Street. That's the end result of like what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I do feel like though we would recognize a lot sooner that the characters are bad. Like in this movie, it kind of takes a little bit for us to recognize, how bad that the bad Bud is actually a villain. Right. It takes us a little bit.
Right.
But I feel like, just like Wolf of Wall Street, if it was adapted, we recognize right away. And Wolf of Wall Street, what kind of guy this is. And I think the point of today, we would know it's a villain. So I don't know. I don't know if
he's more of like a Gordon.
Translate though.
It's more that he's Gordon Gekko. It's more that because of the things that happened in the 80s and ideas of the 80s, there was able to be people like Jordan Belfort who idolized this lifestyle and took it to another extreme. Like, man, Gordon Gekko wasn't doing this shit. Like, Gordon Gekko might be the bad guy. Bud Fox might be a bad guy, but they're not. Jordan Belfort, who's also, he was like actively scamming people out of like their retirement money and stuff. Like, he wasn't doing victimless crimes. Yeah, he was aspiring to the same lifestyle. He was openly he was like openly and cravenly like all about being the worst human being ever.
He didn't realize I don't think he started off that bad. I think he went into, he had aspirations to do good, just like a lot of people, obviously. But the moment he sat down having that weird dinner, like, he started realizing, hey, this is a whole other league, and I kind of low key want it. And he started realizing that, and greed is.
John Carter maybe can answer this question a little bit too. Does anyone go into Wall Street with the idea that they're going to go do good in the world? I mean, people go for a lot.
You go into the world wanting to make money.
Yes, and it's funny you bring that up because a lot they did I was watching the behind the scenes and they did like a mini documentary about the movie making of, and they talked to a lot of brokers, and a lot of brokers were like, "Oh, I got into this business because of Wall Street." They wanted to be the Gordon Gekko. Yeah, they all said, a lot of them said like, you want to start off as Bud, but you want to eventually want to be Gordon.
So at that point, I read the book Wolf of Wall Street that Jordan Belfort made or wrote, that the movie's based on. His direct inspiration for everything that he did was wanting to be Gordon Gekko. Yeah. Like he wanted to be Gordon Gekko. I don't think you get into this business because you're into like the idea of helping humanity. You're in this business. I'm sure there are people who go into trading and go into Wall Street for certain like humanitarian reasons. Most of us go into life, into our career choices, not out of humanitarian reasons. Let me be very clear. Unless you're like an ER doctor or like, doing, most of us are going to the world just to do as best as we can.
I do think it was kind of funny though. I do feel like his when Bud and Gordon, they sat down at the restaurant, the Italian restaurant. I felt like it was it was reminiscent of Wolf of Wall Street, where I was like, where he sat down and had that conversation where they're like, well, what is it that you want to do? Are you going to be my man? That kind of thing. Where it seemed like he was directly referencing it. It
was a direct reference.
Exactly. Between having that relationship with the server, where he's like, oh, every 7 minutes, bring it like a one kind of thing and double it, all that good stuff.
It's very
mom. Exactly. But down to Gordon, he would be like, yeah, order this. It's off menu. They know what to do. So it was that kind of situation, like you said, kind of mobbish a little bit.
Look, I want to clarify my statements.
I
want to clarify my statements. I don't think that no one's saying that I am saying this, but I want to be clear. I don't think people get into Wall Street to like actively do bad in the world. I just think people go into Wall Street the way that most of us go into most professions in our life. I'm good at this one thing. This is how I can make money. If I'm great at it, I can make a lot of money. Like they're not. It's the thing about Wall Street that I think makes for such a good moral tale, or like such a good parable, is that it is directly involving moving money around and not creating anything. So like the career itself seems, and it can be used in a very easy way to seem morally bankrupt. So there's not a lot of movies about great characters who work on Wall Street.
Well, look at the Lou character. He's pretty much the idea of if you could do it the right way, you may not make a lot of money, but you can get by. And that's where Bud sees that. It's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to just be getting by. I want to be
boss.
The older Lou character who kept getting fired.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing about the boss too is like
he looks sad when we see him.
I mean, like he does get fired. I believe that's
no, that's not Lou. That's not Lou. The Lou doesn't get fired.
So you mean the boss, the guy who?
No, not the boss. The guy who keeps giving him advice over and over again, telling him like,
yeah. Well, I mean, like the boss character was interesting to me because like that guy, he keeps saying this one line. It's done in a very Oliver Stone doesn't have the greatest sense of humor, but he does have a little bit of a dry wit. And that line where he's like, I know from the moment I saw you that you were a winner. And then like at the end of the movie, he's like, I knew from the moment I saw you that you were like a bad guy. And you're like, right. I mean,
hey, you really making me money? You're great. You're not, you're a bad guy. Now get out of here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly which way the wind blows.
Exactly.
I think there'd be, I think the sequel, I can't remember exactly how the sequel plays out. I do know that Carey Mulligan plays his daughter, who plays Gecko's daughter, and she's a blogger. And that's so interesting because that's another profession which is often portrayed in movies and TV shows as something you get into because you're a morally bankrupt person who has no soul. But in actuality, as someone who spent many years as like a blogger and a writer of like media and news gossip, I didn't get into it because I was a bad person. And like, were there times that I was seduced by the fame and glamour and after parties and ended up working for, I don't know, Jared Kushner for 6 years? Absolutely. But like, that doesn't, I'm not bad, right?
Oh,
like,
no.
It's that thing. I'm not bad, right? So I relate to this.
It is kind of a weird situation.
Not
Like,
me, right?
how much bad do I have to do in order to be a bad person? How much good do I have to do in order to be a good person? Like, I consider myself a good person. I try to be a great person, but I'm human. That's not always going to happen. I mess up a lot, and sometimes I do bad stuff, unfortunately. But the thing is, but at what point at what point is he a bad person? I do feel like he starts off obviously bad and he just digs his hole deeper and deeper, obviously. But again, no one looks at themselves going into the office thinking, I'm going to do evil today. He doesn't try to do active. I don't think he really tries to think to himself, I'm going to do something illegal. He's just trying to.
He's waiting for the opportunity, and I think that's why. I think that's why he keeps calling. He's waiting for the opportunity. He's playing by the rules, but he's ongoingly trying to get Gordon Gekko's attention because he knows if he gets in line with Gordon, he can go where he wants to go. And just to go back to the previous, go back to the previous segment about favorite lines and scenes. All of the speeches in this movie are excellent.
Everything great. So great.
Which Michael Douglas behind
Michael Douglas is a great actor. I forgot about that.
Had a big problem with it because this is his first heavy dialogue movie that he had. So like
that's funny.
The scene behind me where they're in the limo was one of the first things they shot. He had a really big problem because that's a big heavy dialogue scene. Like Charlie Sheen has like 3 lines in that whole thing. Oh
my God, that's really funny because I associate Michael Douglas with kind of a speech maker because I guess I grew up in the age where he was like in The American President and Sorkin, and he's such a great actor, and I do think of him as like a monologue-y type of actor. But it is true that like back in the day, it was like Fatal Attraction, and he was chorus line, like his roles weren't that of a talky guy. No, and Charlie Sheen, as we know, is not great at life.
Well, Charlie Sheen's reacting a lot in this movie. Like every time Lou's talking to him, like Charlie Sheen went to Oliver Stone's like, I don't know how to play this. He's just like, I don't understand what this guy's saying to me. He's like, you're not supposed to. Just stand there and look confused. He's like,
well, that's great role for Charlie.
That acting is superb. No, it's awful.
Charlie Sheen does a good job of reacting.
Can I be honest? There's the scene between the very brief moment you have between Martin Sheen, who we do know is America's best president from The West Wing, and Gordon Gekko, Michael Douglas, known as
the president.
Yeah, Martin
Sheen.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I'm thinking. Okay, scratch that. Never mind. I'm thinking about him in American President, the movie with Michael Douglas.
That's what
wrong movie.
Right. No, but my point here was that you have this great scene for 2 seconds with 2 American presidents, both who are on my list of people that I'd like to have presidents right now. Would be Martin Sheen and Michael Douglas from that one moment where they're interacting. And it's almost like that Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken scene in True Romance, where you're just got these 2 heavyweights that are like, because like Charlie Sheen is a fine whatever. He's a fine cipher in this movie. He's about as good as Daryl Hannah is at acting. But Martin Sheen brings a lot of heart to this role. And Michael Douglas brings a lot of charisma. And there's about a 2-minute like scene where they're just kind of feeling each other out. And I'm like, I would like that spinoff. I would like to watch that whole thing about like this morally, a very like he's a humble blue collar worker, like union guy who has who knows who he is and what he is, and Gordon Gekko who also knows who he is and what he is. Just take
and where he
Bud
came from
out of the picture. I want to see that movie.
Well, I don't want this. The idea that greed is good, I feel like, is correct to a certain extent.
Well, on the surface it is.
Yeah, on the surface it is. The thing is, capitalism, if we're going to be talking about capitalism, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. There's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons, obviously, to capitalism. The thing is, it's a very fine line. And at what point it blurs is incredibly subjective.
Well, the reason I think that speech and that line is so indicative is not because it is, because the whole point of it is that it's counterintuitive. when you hear a line like greed is good, you're not supposed to be like, oh yeah, that's something we learned in school. The whole idea is that greed is good is a novel concept, and it speaks to both a barrenness. I think on the surface, it speaks to a sort of evilness, but then when you get to Gordon Gekko's main point about it, it speaks to a sort of laissez-faire free market capitalism that at the time was being touted as possibly the thing that was going to save American auto plants and American workers and the American industry.
I would say now more than ever, you do need to be greedy in order to succeed, though. If you want to get that promotion, you got to be selfish and you got to go for it. And sometimes
now more than ever, there's no job.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to when it's such a hyper competitive market. I mean, I you know, it's not only that, but I mean, you do not only now where this idea that you can be selfish. It's okay to be selfish in order to be. In order to not only pursue your goal.
Look at our president. I mean, look at the president. That's Gordon Gekko, just made bigger.
Yeah,
look at the movie. Pretty much explains it very, very well. So look at what Bud actually ended up doing. So he obviously Gordon was going to break up the company. So he went to Terrence Stamp's character to save the company, but Terrence Stamp only did it because it was worth making money. That's so greed is good, and it can. And the movie shows you, hey, greed is good. You can do good things.
Yes, the end just money.
You can do bad things and get money. The idea is how is your greed going to service mankind for good or for evil?
And not only that, but does your intention matter when the end result is good? Like, does Terrence Stamp doing it just to fuck over Gordon Gekko and to make himself money? Does it matter at the end of the day if it ends up saving this American airline? Which, by the way, one more thing. The idea that the American airline company is like the underdog in this film is also very, very telling. Because, like, nope, that's who we give all our bailout money to. Like, the American airline industry is just fine with their money.
They were supposed to be like a small, very small.
They mention it in this movie that this is a company that their generation they started out with one plane. The story of it's a line in the movie where it started out like 30 or 40 years prior. It started out with only one airplane, and now it's a huge thing. And it's
great.
That's it. Well, that's like, the thing is, it supplies a lot of jobs. It provides a certain set of security for hundreds, if not thousands, potentially of people. And it helps get people, the purpose of an airplane is to help get people from here to there. And so in theory, it is a great thing. But also at the same time, obviously, big corporation and everything. And, it's very argumentative, but at the same time, now more than ever, people ideally would like to work for a small company, but now more than ever, we want to work for big, reliable, security-focused companies.
I would argue that from a moralistic standpoint, this movie, if it was being made today, what it would be saying would be like the equivalent of, I'm a young person who wants to get involved in civic organization. I want to be involved, I want to be the next AOC. I want to be the next, I want to be the next Barack Obama. I want to be the next community organizer. I want to be leading the Black Lives Matter protests. And it would be about the sort of moral gray area of what happens when you get power in the realm of social civics, essentially. Like, that would be the industry. It would be like is it possible to be corrupted in a field where you're getting a lot of power through social organization and social movements? Because that's kind of like the equivalent today is like these social movements that we have.
Well, even today, a lot of social movements can also be incredibly greedy.
Exactly.
So a lot of charities, for example, and places that are traditionally meant to embody
nonprofits.
Yeah, nonprofits, hospitals as well, and they've become corporations in and of itself. And so it's a whole thing.
I just think that would just be like a very interesting thing to take, like the idea of mapping this idea out and putting it onto, let's say, the Minnesota Bail Bond Fund and like what happened over there, like when they got like that $32 million and whatever, and like whatever happened to that money. I get that that's a complicated issue of how much they were able to delegate out. But the idea that there is corruption available at any place of power, even if that power is rooted in the idea of goodness and philanthropy and social organization, that there is a way to get corrupted by any amount of having a power like over people. Because I don't see the airline, like, yeah, sure, the airline employees are a thing, but at the end of the day, the airlines are the ones that are getting bailed out every time they go bankrupt. They're the ones who are getting all the money. So it's kind of like today. Back then, not so much. There were a lot of private like airlines like Peter Pan and all the airlines that have gone out of business. This has gone out of business because that's different. But like we're living in a place today where it's hard for me to imagine the airlines as like the small underdog.
I'm not gonna lie. Being here in St. Louis, there are quite a few smaller airlines.
Oh, really?
And the idea that's what Blue Star was supposed to be. Not a major, because they make a point to say like, hey, we're not one of the major airlines. We're we've been around for a while, but we're not a major. They're not an international.
Yeah, they're not Southwest. They're not.
No.
Is Southwest your example of an international airlines? Because Southwest is literally domestic.
No. I mean, they are technically Southwest because they go to Iceland, Caribbean, Mexico, things like that. But it's not a major one. But even that's considered a very small technically international airline.
It's a Wings. We're talking about like the equivalent of the TV show Wings. Like it was like a that thing.
Yeah, it's itty bitty. It's
a little above Wings, but not as big as American Airlines.
This is an itty bitty one. Even if it does have, like I mentioned, it's only been around for a while, and it doesn't have any. And they're still working with unions and everything, where they're obviously.
That's my other point. That would be my other point, which is the idea. But the other point here is that are the people who are supposed to be working on the planes supposed to be also the people that have like the investment ownership of this airline? Like, is his dad, who is like literally a mechanic?
Conversation,
right? Yeah. The mechanic would not be the one who's in charge of like any of the decision making on the union.
But the idea of him owning part of the company gives him more of an investment to want to continue to work because he owns a part of it.
Sure, but that's fanciful. Those people that like work for airlines don't have any stake in the company. Like it's
well, I mean, there's companies that do offer some small stake in the company if you work
know what I'm saying.
Years, things like that. But there's some companies where they can't. I mean, the companies are just too small, or they're not public, or maybe they are privatized or whatever it may be, just depending on the situation, or if they break it up essentially. But also, I mean, states have different, and industries have different relationships with the unions as well.
And the government.
I mean,
is this a pro-union movie?
For or against them, and it just kind of depends on what kind of company you're in and all that good stuff.
Shit. This is a pro-union movie. I'm just realizing that. This is like definitely a pro-union
100%.
Absolutely. Well, that's a whole other conversation. I do want to ask though, because we have kind of gone into this point.
The only reason those deals got made because they had union consent. Like the idea, if once he lost the union, he was like, "Well, this deal is not going to work." And once Torrance Stamps said, "Hey, are you guys willing to take these cuts?" And then if you are, I'm willing to make the deal. And just real quick, my favorite line in this movie is not the greed is good, because that's too easy. The line is, money isn't won or lost, it's simply transferred from one perspective to another. Like
energy.
To me, because to me, like I've never looked at money the same way once I heard that line, because it's true. You really don't lose money. You don't really gain money. It just transfers from you. It turns into the stuff you buy, the things that you do. So
Sean, I love that you saw this movie in economics class, and I love that the effect it had on you, because it seems like it actually shaped a lot of like how you see the world, which is
absolutely.
That's so good.
I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I didn't see that movie.
Well, something I do think is important is that the idea of greed is good, is true to a certain extent, but also in order to function as a society, we need a certain sense of that instilled in us in order
unless we want to be communists
and to improve overall, in order to whether it be individually, as a society, economically and everything. Obviously, we do need an inherent sense of greed is good in order to do better.
We plant seeds in the South. In the South, we create. You just want to move our money around. This financial plan's outrageous demand. It's too many damn pages for anyone to understand.
We don't want this video to get copyrighted though.
Oh yeah,
we gotta be careful.
Hamilton says a lot of great things about this, one way or another.
He was also very big bank, super mega.
He started the idea of Wall Street.
Yeah,
he created Wall Street.
The idea of it, absolutely.
No. He actually created Wall Street. He did. That's what he did. That's why they say Wall Street thinks you're great. You're always going to be loved by the things you create. He did it.
We keep branding. We know who's really doing that. Yeah,
but I'm saying, he created the idea of taking money away from states and putting it in this New York Stock Exchange. Yeah. I do want to ask though, because we kind of have talked about this to a certain extent, so we can kind of move on pretty quickly to our next fun section. But do you guys think this movie holds up?
I do think it does to a certain extent. I do think people's priority, I think as a culture, at least in my generation, our priorities definitely change when we're looking for jobs and we're looking to work with companies. Sure, that certain sense of greed is good is definitely relevant, when we're negotiating salaries or whatever, or when we're trying to make money to pay bills. Obviously, when things are more expensive than ever.
Do you think the movie is trying to say greed is good, or do you think the movie just has a character who's bad say that?
I think it's I do think that the idea of greed is good is definitely shows that the mentality is incredibly catchy and relatable.
But I think it's at the end of the day shown to be also toxic and evil. Like I think it holds up because at the end of the day, these guys are not good guys, right?
But also to a certain extent, there is also a certain sense of ambition where it's in order to be greedy, you have to have a certain innate sense of ambition in order to improve. In order to make more money. You can't be, ideally, at least in movies and stuff, you're not a lazy doing nothing every day and getting promotions and getting more money. It's only by, in theory, like I said, by doing X, Y, and Z, are you able to get to that next level. And
I have a hot take.
More money.
I have a hot take. This movie does not hold up because this movie is very pro the idea of pro-union, pro-small business airlines. We're still talking about the underdog at the end of the day being a corporation that's made up of, yes, individual workers, but those individual workers are shown in a way that is incredibly unrealistic, which is that these people have a personal stake, as almost as if his dad.
I'm not going to lie to my friends. I'm not going to lie to my coworkers.
Exactly. My friends, my coworkers, not this giant company, not United Airlines that are sending out emails being like, we value our employees so much that we're not having them wear COVID masks. We're talking about I don't think this movie holds up because I think it still has the wrong underdog.
Well, remember, Charlie Sheen's dad in the movie, he's a union rep. He's one of the 4 union reps. So that's why he's there. But I think it holds up because this movie is basically telling us do the ends always justify the means? How far are you willing to go to be Gordon Gekko? Because what a lot of behind the scenes, the documentary that I watched about this movie, a lot of the guys in Wall Street now, they were saying that this is their Scarface. This is their Godfather.
That's what it is. It's their Scarface. Yeah,
absolutely. They were saying if you're talking, they even have a term when you make a big deal, it's a gecko because that's what his friend says when he makes I got the big one. It's you got gecko. So the idea of this movie is how far are you willing to? Because even Bud's character is I'm doing these bad things, but now I'm in a position to try to do a good thing. I want to save Blue Star. I want to turn it around so I can make even more money, but I'm doing bad things to get the money. So does me making bad decisions, even though I'm going to try to do something good for this company, does it justify that? Does that make me a good person because I'm trying to do something good with my bad money?
And when you're snitching, at the end of the day, he's snitching because the government made him snitch. Does that make him a good? Is that him being just?
The government doesn't make you snitch. It's hey, you could get less jail time if you snitch.
I'm saying he's still a Weasley fuck by the end of the movie, if not more so than he did.
100%.
So he's not. But guys, time for our really fun segment that I do want to get to because we're almost at the 1:30 mark.
We are past the 1:30 mark.
We're past that.
Guys, we're going to do a real quick thing. We're
at 98 minutes, lady.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to do a really quick game that is not stolen from any other thing. It's just something we made up on the spot.
Totally.
Which is we're gonna totally try to recast only the 3 or 4 main characters from this movie. We're going to do Gordon Gekko. If this was being made today, and I know we did Money Never Sleeps, but if this was being made today, who's going to be Gordon? Who's going to be Bud? Who's going to be the Daryl Hannah character? And who's going to be, do we want to do Bud's dad? Was that one of them too? Or is it just this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you had a really, really good one, Alex, for Gordon. Who you got?
Yeah. So I did want to go in the direction of father-son combat duos.
For Gecko?
Yeah. For Carl and Bud Fox.
Yeah.
I have 2 options available.
Wait. Can we start with Gecko though? Can we start with Gecko?
Sorry, Gecko. So I have 2 ideas. So I want to go with my first option, Mr. Sean Bean.
Oh, okay, that was mine. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's pretty good. Very good. But
I really liked the idea just because not only does the man look great in a suit, and he's charismatic. Charismatic. That's not a word. You know what I'm talking about.
you were very close to mine. You were very close.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's very great with, being these kind of manipulative kind of characters as well. And he's also can be low key devious, but at the same time, not only he has that certain charisma where you really kind of want to somehow fall in his, go into his footsteps and you kind of look up to him. And so I can easily see him in that kind of mentorship role sitting in the high tower.
I got one. I want to bring up a picture of him. So you go first, Sean, because mine is so good. And I went in a very similar direction as you, Alex. I'm going to try to find a picture before I bring it up. So who'd you get, Sean?
For Gordon, Pierce Brosnan.
Ooh, that was also good.
Yeah, I see what you're doing there.
Because I don't know if you ladies know who Gordon Gecko's look is based on. Do you ladies know?
No, James Bond. I'm going to guess just based on
no. Pierce Brosnan. He came later as James Bond.
That's correct.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. Who knows about James Bond?
Actor or character?
The look.
I don't.
One of the other
he
Bonds.
doesn't look like James. He doesn't look like any kind of form of James Bond at all. So that doesn't make sense.
No. Well, he looks like Pat Riley. He used to, at that time he was the Laker coach. So that look
really
Riley.
is Pat Riley. Like if you look at Pat Riley in the 80s, that's Gordon Gecko.
Here's mine.
Oh, right.
Come up.
Oh, dude, I would totally see that.
Fucking laugh. Think about this for a second. There's no one better to play Gordon Gecko in 2020 than Peter fucking Dinklage. Like you would fucking buy that. I would buy that stock for $1 million. He would be able to sell that Greed is Good speech.
He's so cool.
That Greed is Good speech. He would sell that to me in a way that I would actually believe that greed is good. Like, are you kidding me?
I willingly follow him. And thank you. I blame Gravity 23. Mystic, a level of charisma that's almost mystical. Exactly. Yeah. Put it in the dictionary, man. I like
that me and Alex both went with people from Game of Thrones. I don't know what that's telling us about it.
we kind of like low key have like somewhat similar tastes.
We have similar tastes.
Yeah.
You know who else I might pick?
Who?
Well, Mads Mikkelsen.
Okay, girl. We're on the same wavelength because I'm watching Hannibal right now, and I was trying to think between him and Kiefer Sutherland, and I went the direction of he was my backup person.
So the thing about Mads is I think it would be really interesting to have like a Gordon Gecko that was not American. To have a non-American Gordon Gecko, to have literally the way that America was founded on a foreigner coming in and like giving us these speeches about money and whatever. I think it would be a really interesting updated twist. Yeah. To have our ideas about like the other and our like ideas about like European culture and the idea of their free healthcare and whatever. We think of them as so much more liberal than us. I think I would like to see Mads Mikkelsen in that role of Gordon Gecko.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Dude.
Yeah.
Bud Fox.
Bud Fox. Guess what? I didn't think that far ahead, but I do have one for Daryl Hannah. Can I just go with my Daryl Hannah pick?
Sure.
Yeah.
I picked Hunter Schafer from Euphoria, who is.
Can you pull up a picture by chance?
Yeah. They are a trans woman, very beautiful person. I just think that like she's an amazing actress. Like she plays Jules in Euphoria. She's gorgeous. But I think there's a lot more to be done with that character than we were able to give her in the course of that film. And I would really like, let's see if this works. I would really like to see that character given a little bit more depth and nuance by having it be a non-traditional binary actress playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen her in something else before other than Euphoria, but I don't know where.
She's just gorgeous. Like literally the most gorgeous person in the world. But yeah, that was my pick for the Daryl Hannah role.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that far. I'm curious what Alex is. Please don't have.
I have two options. Two very different directions. Okay. My first one, you might recognize her from a few few big movies that came out in the past year. Her name is Ana de Armas. She was in Knives Out. She was in Knives Out. She's in the.
She was in Ben Affleck.
She's currently, but she's in a lot of really great movies. Not only that, you can really kind of go on this, like you said, with Mads Mikkelsen, going in the more international direction. She's multilingual. She is really kind of take on this idea of like international on that next level of not just millions but billions. Go crazy.
Yes, that was by the way. Sorry, I blame Gecko. I was also thinking for Gecko could be a woman. Lena
Headey for everything, anything, everything. Give her the money. She's amazing. I love her.
This is not Cocktails and Casting. This is called Game of Thrones people as characters.
Right. Yes. Very different concept. Every word that I'm not gonna lie, I would probably be discovered to be super duper evil if I was if she was like my mentor lady. I would be like,
oh my god,
every word you say is truth. Is like
Oh my god, yes. Like she didn't get. I just watched Fighting with My Family. She's incredible in it.
Everything. Another option. Again, very different direction. But I think if we're going to be going in, if you want to go not only international, but go in the direction of maybe something a little bit edgier, cooler. Someone trying to really kind of go, really do a lot more expansion of the character of Darian's character in particular, Zazie Beetz.
Oh my god, that was one of mine too. But I was like, I can't have too many people from.
I know, right? I picked really good people. Okay, so I think she's fantastic as an actress. She's I've never seen her in anything that I was not impressed with. I thought she was like my favorite, literally my favorite part of Joker, and I really did not like that movie.
I almost went with Zendaya, which I'm sure Eric would be laughing at.
She's so young.
I'm shaking my head because
I love Zendaya, but she feels very young to me. You know, if this was if Bud Fox was in college and he had a college girlfriend, totally. But I kind of want someone with a little more charisma. Someone that's I want a woman that's like has some to her.
So for Gecko or for Daryl Hannah, because I like the idea of that she's a Zoe Barnes type, that she's like a young upstart, like.
Exactly. Or maybe she's competition to him. She's kind of working with, and there's this kind of that relationship, and there's like an expansion of her character, and she's like trying to climb her way up and not afraid to do some illegal stuff as well. So I think she's pretty amazing. Now, going into the Bud and Carl Fox.
Yeah. Okay. Where'd you go with this? I didn't get this far.
I have several options. Okay.
What's your top one? Your
top one.
Okay, so you may have heard of the show called The Boys on Amazon.
Yes.
His name is Jack Quaid.
Which one is he?
Jack Quaid, he plays the main guy, who's like...
Oh my God, he's so good.
Jack Quaid is the son of Dennis Quaid, and once you see it, you can't forget it.
Oh, you mean the main...
If you look at their face, they are identical. It's weird.
Yep.
So great. Weird.
But I love your choices. I love your TV choices. That is totally 100% right. Jack Quaid and Dennis Quaid.
I've also seen him. I've also seen him in a few weird little indie movies. One of them was called Plus One, and I really enjoyed it. But it was kind of black comedy rom-com situation where I actually really appreciated. But I do think he has he not only does he look like I don't want to say a typical white guy, but I feel like he can play that asshole kid kind of well.
I went with another father-son duo. I went with Patrick and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because if you've seen
I don't feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger is like I can't really picture him as Carl Fox and be like, yeah, I feel bad for you. Like I think I could do that anyway.
He's gonna be so old. I think that I would feel the range. And if you've seen the movie Daniel Isn't Real, then you know what a slimy piece of real slick back thing. That first of all, he's handsome as hell, like Patrick Schwarzenegger, and I think he could do it really well. And the idea that his dad is an immigrant, like his dad is like a blue collar immigrant who works at this union. Again, just taking this idea and playing with it a little bit about this idea of what it means to be American, what it means for the idea of greed to be good. I think Bud Fox is a lot more relatable if he's a first generation American.
Oh, exactly. Brings it to my next one.
Don't steal mine, Alex.
Bill Skarsgård and Stellan Skarsgård.
I wasn't wrong with mine either.
Bill Skarsgård, you might know him as Pennywise in the recent Pennywise movies.
That's a great pick.
I know, I try. I actually thought really hard about these. But Bill Skarsgård, what he's able to do is that I feel like he can really bring a certain level of malice and darkness to this character that I don't think that we really expanded on as much with Charlie Sheen. So I think we can really kind of dive into that a lot more with his movie. Not to mention he can create chemistry with anyone. He's so wonderful. Do you
want to hear a funny story about Bill Skarsgård that I'm pretty sure I've told before? But I used to go to these cinema society parties in New York where like the after parties for all the big, when they do premieres of movies in New York, they would be like these parties like twice or three times a week. And Bill Skarsgård was like a staple at these events. And one time we got to talking, he hadn't done anything yet except that Netflix show. Oh God, what was it called?
Hemlock Grove.
Hemlock Grove. It was written by a friend of mine, Brian McGreevy. So at the time, like we were kind of talking once. Yeah, so we were talking once. Really? Huh. So we were talking once.
It's campy and it's weird, and I love what's her name, Femke
Jansen.
Yeah, I love her. I think she's fabulous.
So one time I asked him, "Is it true?" Because I'd read this article about Alexander Skarsgård, his brother, that described the Skarsgård family as, imagine there's only one celebrity in your country, and it's George Clooney. And George Clooney lives on an island with like 12 kids, and he just keeps having more kids, and like it's a very secluded thing. And there's only one celebrity, and it's this guy living off the thing, and that's what the Skarsgårds are. And I asked him, I said, "Is it true that you guys just all live on an island, and it's like this weird thing, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo style?" And he goes, "No, we're very much like every other family, except all we do is go surfing, and we're all uncircumcised." And I was like, oh my God. Whoa, my God. That was what was up. That was the hot tea about that Skarsgård family.
Hot tea, yo. Hot tea.
John, who are your picks?
So for Bud and his father, I picked Denzel Washington and David Washington.
Oh, great.
That's obviously great.
Ooh, you could do oh my gosh.
Why did I think about that?
There.
Fuck. That's the best one, Sean. You win. You fucking win.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, scratch it. No, I win. Okay.
No, I'm so
sorry. I have Zazie Beetz.
Also.
I have
Zazie Beetz. I was gonna say her.
I'm literally only talking about the Bud. I'm talking about specifically the Bud part, like the Bud and the dad. It is Denzel. Mm-hmm. It is Denzel and his son, Black Klansman actor. What's his name again? Sorry, I forgot.
John David Washington.
I was just thinking about him because of Tenet. That's perfect. The end. That ends this segment of this perfect thing that we just did.
I'm not gonna lie. I love the idea. I just can't picture John D. Washington being an asshole though.
Well then, I guess you know what? I guess that's what
he's multi-talented. He could be an asshole.
No, I'm sure he can. I haven't seen him do it. I've always
seen. Did we watch Charlie Sheen be an asshole? He was more just like a.
Well, no, we see him be an asshole. We've seen him not only just straight up like at Darian, but we also see him really snap several times at Marvin. We see him.
I think he could do it. I think that's like it's called showing. It's acting. I think he could definitely be an asshole. Robert Pattinson was also. I didn't think of like who would be his dad, but Robert Pattinson was another pick of mine. Guys, do you want to, Sean? First of all, let me just say the thank yous real quick because we are wrapping up the show. This has been, I think, my favorite episode that we've done of Cinema Bias.
Even better than the one with Roka?
I think I really like this one because the conversation, like I didn't think that deeply about this movie, like ever. And then like this has really turned into a conversation that I've like significantly enjoyed listening to other people speak on, which is rare for me. It might not have come across like I was listening, but I was actually listening. And we really got into some interesting things tonight. So thank you, Sean, for being a part of this, for being part of it tonight.
Thank you for having me. And the fact that I followed Roka and now you're saying this was your favorite brings a little tear to my eye. Not really, but thanks for having me. But wait, Alex, I'm not 100% sure. Did you like this movie?
I kind of feel similar to how I like watching Pulp Fiction. I watch it and I appreciate it for what it's done, and I think it's incredibly influential. It's just not a movie that I have any desire to see again, though, to be honest.
Oh, interesting.
I definitely take away a lot of things, and I thought it was really cool to kind of talk about it, obviously, extensively. But at the same time, do I want to sit down and watch these characters because I'm so excited to spend more time with them? No.
I think this movie doesn't bother me the way that some movies get under my like. I find some movies to be like great cinematically, but unwatchable again. When we get to Warrior, we'll discuss that. Like that movie, I will never see again. It's a great film. We'll never watch again. There are a lot of films that I feel that way about. This movie on repeat watching, I really liked it. It's not that stressful for me to watch because I don't relate that much to Bud. I'm like, what an asshole. And unlike Uncut Gems, or I'm assuming because I will never watch Uncut Gems, it doesn't stress me out. Like this movie isn't really, the stakes are high and you kind of see where it's going, but it doesn't have that tension of like something bad is about to happen. It's just it's got that killer Talking Head song in it.
Well, the thing is, I know we were talking about recasting, but I would have loved to see this movie if it was like an adaptation of this directed by like David Fincher. Where it's kind of similar to like the Social Network or something, where it's a lot darker, where they kind of go into like Wall Street society, culture, and everything, and how like that mentality of greed like impacts the rest of our lives.
Literally, I had Sorkin writing it and Fincher directing it as if it was a Social Network, and then Weston had said in the comments the Social Network is going to be like the equivalent here. Do we want to talk about like real quick the next week's film, because I think we got it right. Yeah. We don't have a picture of it, but we do have it. It's going to be, like next week's movie. Sorry, it's going to be, I believe, Doctor No.
It is.
Is he a doctor? I couldn't tell if he was a doctor or like did he get a degree, whatever. It's my first James Bond film. Second James Bond film. I saw the one where he went to his house.
You saw Skyfall.
I saw Brian Cox or Albert Finney, and he went to his home, and that was the whole thing, and they Home Aloned it. That one I saw. I tried to watch the Mads Mikkelsen one once, but I cannot. Bond. I have a very hard time with the James Bond, so we're gonna try to get me throrough one and see.
I think you just have a hard time with a lot of action adventure in that kind of genre as well, where it's so
maybe I'm lying,
action.
Maybe I'm lying, and I will absolutely love it, and I know a lot of things about James Bond. But here's the deal: we are going to be watching Doctor No, which I believe is a James Bond film.
It's the first one.
Yeah, it is the very first one, at least chronologically, I believe.
Chronologically, you mean like actually, or is it to go back in time?
But say it's I believe it was released in theaters in the mid 60s, like 63, 65 or something like that.
Yes.
When you say chronologically though, is there one that prequels it? Like is there one that comes later that technically takes place before in the timeline? Like
there's several James Bond movies that because Casino Royale is supposed to be one of the first James Bond movies. So it's kind of like right. I mean, it is the first we released chronologically, but it's not the first of the James Bond character story. Like there's movies later on, like Spectre in theory, based off like who the villains are and everything. It's referring to villains in earlier movies.
We can talk about it later, but is James Bond supposed to be like, is 007 just one guy who just lives forever, or is it supposed to be a bunch of different guys?
We'll go into next week, actually.
But I will tell you, Drew, you probably will like Dr. No better than Skyfall, because those Sean Connery ones are a lot slower. The violence isn't as intense.
I do like violence.
It is more of a spy movie.
Can we talk about that?
Okay, but
real quick though, Skyfall had the best villain. It was what's his name was so fucking good. He was so fucking good as the villain. What's his name? Not Benicio del Toro. What's his name?
Yo.
Oh my God! No Country for Old Men.
Give me a minute.
No Country for Old Men.
His name is.
Give me a minute.
5, 4.
Cruz.
Oh, I got it.
His name. Oh shoot.
5, 4. You got it. 3.
Where is it?
I'll give you the first
Benicio No.
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 2, 1. I'll give you the first letter. It starts with a J.
I know it starts with a J. It's a
Adam Ward donated $1.99. Thank you for their $2. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Adam. He says something, but I will read it right now. Let's see. I'll give you guys another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope. It's Javier Bardem.
Well, yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Dude, that would have drummed me nuts if I missed a question about the one James Bond film that I actually know and that I love the bad guy for. God, his teeth in that are fucking crazy. Casino Royale is the first James Bond book. It's also a James Bond parody that Ursula Andress was in.
The thing is, though, is that James Bond, when you going into Dr. No, that you're gonna see his character is already an established character. He's not like getting the title of James Bond, or he's not like going on his first mission or anything like that. You know, that's so it's not first chronologically, but it's not the first story.
Like Indiana Jones, like Roger Rabbit, you're just thrown into the universe, and it's not like it's not his first day on the job. I get it.
No, it's not. And I agree with the comment about Goldfinger being the better one. It is pretty much what you think of James Bond is because of Goldfinger. Everything you think about James, like anything you know about him, even though you haven't seen a lot of the movies, you know who James Bond is. Everything you know came from that movie.
Most of what I know came from Austin Powers.
Or
which from Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And everything that we know about Austin Powers is actually based, a lot of it is based off of in like Flynn.
That's which is based on.
But guys, let's save it for next week. We're going to be saving this for next week. So guys, that's Cinema Bias, where we talk about stuff. Next week is going to be a movie I've never seen. It's been a couple weeks now since we got a movie that I haven't seen. And I'm excited to expand my worldview and pay attention to something on screen. I gotta say, when I was doing Warrior, because I thought because we are going to be doing it at some point, that movie wrecked me in a way that I was not expecting to be emotionally moved because I don't like sports movies. But we'll get into that at some point. I love being exposed to new shit. I just have to be kind of forced to, which is what Cinema Bias is about. So I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming and saying hi. I want to also say that there is something that you can do. If you want to force us to watch something, you can do that. You can go to patreon.com/VideoDrew. Why do I add the backslash? I don't know. It sounds cool. And there's a tier where you can literally come on the show and if you give us a list of 4 or 5 movies, and if there's one in there that me and or Alex have not seen, if it's the bill, then we were going to have you come on and talk about it with us. It can be a movie that neither of us have seen, or a movie that maybe Alex has seen. Just a movie you want to force on our eyeballs.
Or maybe we've seen it, but it's been decades. So especially I know we saw you saw the movie I saw for the first time Blue Velvet, but you haven't seen it in years. Like you said, in over 10 years or something like that.
Oh, yeah, but that was my pick.
That's true, but I mean, revisiting it for the first time in a very, very long time. My pick was A Little Princess, and I hadn't seen it since I was maybe 12 years old.
Oh yeah, dude, Cinema Bias is all about forcing us to confront why we avoid certain movies, why we're so adamant to avoid certain movies, and why, on the other hand, some of us just find movies so special and what these things are on examination. These genres that we like, these iconic films that some of us have just missed. We all have huge blind spots that there are people out there who have never seen Citizen Kane. No big deal. Some of us have never seen When Harry Met Sally. Some of it, some of us have never seen Silence of the Lambs. Some of us have never seen, La La Land. It just goes on and on. Everybody's not seen something huge, and that's kind of what Cinema Bias is.
That's totally fine. I've not seen Terminator or any Lethal Weapon.
I've never seen Terminator or a Lethal Weapon movie either.
Girl.
There you go, right there.
I saw T2. I've seen T2, not the first one.
Let's see. There's
the first Lethal Weapon.
I haven't seen, what was that? Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, I just watched that one a couple years ago. Pretty good.
Oh, pretty good. Richard Dreyfuss.
I don't think I've seen most Star Trek.
He's an asshole in the movie, which is a huge surprise.
I decided I'm not just going to go around and say what I haven't seen because there are movies that I know a lot about. That doesn't mean I've seen them. Or there's a lot of movies that I've seen that I literally have retained zero information on. But speaking of things that we remember and don't remember, I'm going to remember this time to say, please like and subscribe to this channel because we do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. right here. Alex, where can people find you?
Here on Twitter. I try to post funny stuff sometimes and post all the important information you need to know. Like which is Hogwarts house is the most important house in Hogwarts.
It's Slytherin.
It's obviously Slytherin. Okay.
Remember that time you came out on my street? You came onto my house and called me Hufflepuff?
I was Slytherin.
100% Hufflepuff. I stand by it. You heard my description and why? No, scratch that. No, I did say Hufflepuff. I said Ravenclaw, and I defended myself. And you actually liked the reason why you said Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I liked your reason. But like, okay, so like Danny Joy from Call to Action, like she did my charts, like my moon, my sun, and like it turns out like I might be a Gemini, but like my sun is in Virgo or something. And I'm like, well, I'll take that with a grain of salt because I'm not really like a Virgo or like a Taurus or whatever. I am a Gemini. So like the Sorting Hat is going to take into account what I want, and I want to be Slytherin. So that's something that's just straight
That's
true.
also at the same time incredibly Ravenclaw of you because Ravenclaw characters actually have had a history of doing that.
I will shank you
for their purpose.
I will shank you in the freaking thing with a wand, Alex. I'm Slytherin.
I will fight you so hard on that. Have you taken the quiz?
Wait, guys. Sean's also Slytherin.
Yes,
can we just agree?
That I know. That's not.
No, he's not Slytherin.
I am.
You're Gryffindor.
No, I am not.
I was honestly thinking you could be like one of those people that are actually like buy houses where they're
J.K. Rowling doesn't believe in buy houses.
But okay, well, thing is like certain houses actually in Hogwarts houses actually work best with others. Like Slytherin and Hufflepuffs, they're best friends.
Did you hear my joke? Did you hear my joke about how J.K. Rowling doesn't believe in buy houses?
Oh God, I don't even want to talk about her. I can't.
I heard you. I'm just like, I'm not
that I cannot acknowledge her.
It's a very funny joke. Somebody in the comment section give me like a haha. Haha, Drew.
But anyway, but it's true. But that's why. Slytherin and Hufflepuff, they actually do really well together. But also alternatively, Gryffindor and Ravenclaw also have a history of doing excellent together as well.
Things.
Now, but I would honestly say, Sean, crap, I don't know. I think you could be both. Either way.
Both what?
Both. I could see you in both Ravenclaw as well as Slytherin. So Slytherin. Okay, a lot of people associate Slytherin with self-serving, and that's that's
good.
They're ambitious. They're ambitious people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's say there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, and I feel like a lot of people associate ambition when using this context as bad. Like only Death Eaters are Slytherin. Like
only greed is good.
So this movie in particular.
Hashtag not all Death Eaters. Or wait, no, not all Slytherin. That's what it is.
But also at the same time in that movie, thing is the problem is Slytherin has a history of almost like has a history of only admitting people that are of pure blood status, and therefore that it is a social class.
Well, how come Snape got in?
Snape? He's a half-blood.
Right. So how do you get in?
It's like it has like a history. The thing is, he might have been Slytherin enough in order. Harry you're going to break the mold.
Harry was being Slytherin.
Hey guys,
but he was also a half-blood as well.
This is some made-up bullshit. This is some made-up fantasy bullshit.
It's all fake. It's all fake. It's ridiculous.
Why not? Sean, where we can find you? Perfect segue.
So I'm not really a social media guy, but you can find me. I'm usually always hanging out on VideoDrew stream. I also do a lot of work for the Outlaw John Roca, so you can find me on those streams. I've done a couple of short films in my past, so you can like check out my IMDb page and check those out. But
IMDb page?
What?
Yeah, where? Show it. Give us a link.
Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up.
Let me pull it up too. I'm pulling it up. Throw it in there. Wait, Sean, how do we watch your shit?
How do you spell your last name?
I got it. Yo, it's your first link when you type in your name into Google is your IMDb. That's pretty cool.
Wait, were you identical in hose?
Well, it's about an animated garden hose, which actually that film that short film actually won a couple of short film awards. Check it out.
Oh, how will we check it out though? Is it on Vimeo or something?
It is, and my film is actually on the identical one is actually on IMDb. You can watch it there.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. Well, I know I'm doing after this.
It was the first thing I did after film school. So.
Whammy. Wait, no, we can't pull it up. Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's right there.
And I want to say that, Sean, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I know that this movie is going to be great because you're a fantastic moderator, you're a fantastic producer, and you're a fantastic co-creator. Because that brings me to my own stuff, which is Sean is the person behind. He's the producer character behind In the Dark with VideoDrew, which is the kayfabe show that we do at Sunday nights at 8 p.m. It's been incredible. Every week I'm like, okay, this must have been a fluke. And then it just keeps getting better and better. We've had on Tom. We've had on Lon Harris. We had Adam Witt pretending to be David Lynch and reading the speech from Independence Day. That was like the best thing that's ever happened in my life. That was literally the best thing that's ever happened in my life. That was with co-host Danny Carvello. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Why would I try to pronounce his last name? That's how I do it.
I'm laughing at the chat here. I'm the guy in the chair. Sure, why not?
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
being the guy in the chair.
Mondays and Thursdays, you can find me over on this channel, which is, youtube.com/VideoDrew. Please like and subscribe. Even if you don't like and subscribe to me, you could still support it. So press like and subscribe. Monday and Thursdays, we have the VideoChronic Pop Culture Quiz with NerdChronic, who you definitely like. You definitely like him. Tomorrow, I believe we're doing a certain movie. I don't want to, because I haven't confirmed with one of the competitors, but they were doing a certain movie. And then after that, for the rest of the month, Christmas in July. All the quizzes are going to be Christmas quizzes. So that's 9 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. Tuesdays, I'm here doing the Cinema Bias at 8 p.m. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. tomorrow, right after that Star Wars match on Twitch. Just head over to twitch.tv/VideoDrew, where we're going to be doing a movie watch along. Because if you have Amazon Prime, I have Amazon Prime. And as an affiliate, I can just beam a movie right to you while you have my screen right in the corner. You can just watch the movie alongside me. Fridays on Twitch, we do Twitch karaoke at 8 p.m. PT. Alex has been a big part of that. Sean's always in the comments. We're gonna get Sean to sing sometime.
I'm gonna start singing now.
Yeah. Now that NerdChronic has sung 2 songs, someone's got to. Everyone's got to sing.
I have 2 things now. I'm gonna start singing.
It literally has become the best part of my week, and I used to hate karaoke. Other than that, you can find me at the patreon.com VideoDrew for all the stuff. I've got merch. It's really good merch. So that's TeePublic, VideoDrew. Everything VideoDrew. You can figure it out. It's not hard. Just drew it. And I want to say thank you to my mods, which is Sean, Danny, Adelia, Movie Fanobi. And because this is how it's going to go now, I'm going to play the outro credits that we have because they're really good for In the Dark with VideoDrew, even though we're on Cinema Bias. Because they're really good.
Wear a mask.
Yeah, and wear a mask.
You're still in my line, dude. What's up?
I wanted us to say it at the same time.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Wear a mask.